We're live.
Are we? Are we? Are we live? Are we in a simulation?
No, I'm live. I'm live. I'm 100% guaranteed that I'm alive.
Okay.
You know how I
Well, there you
know?
go. It's good enough for me.
Because I think. Therefore,
You think?
I am I am the cake and I'm a lie. I think that's how that goes.
It's a good explanation as any.
This cat is looking right at me. So I get your full frame view. There's a cat right
Yeah.
off to the side just staring. She was
Oh yeah.
staring right at me.
Are you staring at Jim? Are you being
Mhm.
a monster? She's being a monster. Fucking little gargoyle.
So what is the plan
Well,
today?
we wanted to do. Uh,
This is unbearable.
we want. Speaking of monsters, she's tearing something up somewhere. I can hear it. It looks like it's something she's supposed to tear up. Okay, good kitten. We are going to first off the bat, first off the ball, whatever. We're going to try to normalize our audio.
Uh-huh.
Because so I've noticed a bunch of different things since my soundboard crashed. I used to have you guys turn up 75% to hear you in my earbuds, and now I'm got you like 25%.
Huh.
And let me see what I've
Okay.
actually got. I've got you at 90% volume. I got Talith at 60%. So I got Talith at 60% volume on Discord. I got you at 90%, and then collectively through that, I've got you turned down to 25%. I feel like I want to normalize that and get those kind of like more towards the 50, like the 100% and 50 percentile respectively.
Mm-hmm.
And then make sure that we sound balanced on the stream,
Yeah.
and yeah, see that goes, because I'm concerned also that you said you've got me up at the max power,
Yeah, you're like maxed out everywhere, man.
so you can't give any more on your side. And
Uh,
I don't know,
maybe
part
I
of the problem
can.
might be that I have, since the air conditioner's been running in the office, which is going to continue for another month or two at least. I did turn my gain down to kind of help with that. It seems like it has. Like I don't think people can tell that our gain. What is your mouth hanging open for?
I had more volume to give.
Oh,
So I can
okay.
normalize you for the live chat, live stream
Okay.
stuff.
Well, then maybe we don't really have a lot to do. Um,
Although I shouldn't normalize it there. What I should do is go to my Focusrite and turn some of that stuff down because it's all the way up on you.
gotcha. Let me ask you. So, can you keep talking? I want to see
Uh-huh.
which.
Mic
Okay.
check. Mic check,
All
everybody.
right.
Mic check.
So, I
Hey,
want
this
to
is me talking.
turn that
Hey,
gain
chat. How's it
down
going? Is
there.
Timo in chat? I haven't seen anybody in chat. I've got
That looks
500
better.
things that I'm doing here. Yeah, I mean
And
we're
then
pretty
bring Jim back to
balanced.
100%.
Like when you're actually talking.
Okay. So I got, you guys are now too low for me to hear, so I'm turning up my ears a little bit. Can I get another sound check?
Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. Mic
All right,
check.
that
Mic
sounds
check. Mic
good.
check. Mic check. Mic check.
And then let me get a recording going, because now that I've done that, we need to do that anyway. Badasses
Yeah.
debate 2022-04.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be under specials, I think. Yeah, badass debates 2022. Okay, cool. Oh shit, just bumped my mic. Okay, testing, testing. What about you, Jim?
Mic check. Mic check. Testing. Testing.
This
One, two,
all
three. Mic check.
this all looks pretty good. By which I mean it all looks pretty low, but that's like, I might be okay. Can I get another sound check, Jim?
Yep. Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. One, two,
All
three.
right,
Mic
you look
check.
entirely balanced to me. The waves are a little bit low, but it looks like we're getting close to 0 decibels for both of us without peaking. So I think that's good. Does everything sound good for the public here?
Looks good on the meters. So yeah, we're pretty balanced. The one thing we could do is incorporate some kind of audio compression, at least on my side on the live stream. I don't know if you do that before you send it to me.
I've seen some cheap inline compressors floating around Amazon lately, like $50 to accept one of those what do you call it, quarter-inch jack inputs that you could put in line at least with the microphones. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that'll help us sound better than post-fact compression. But I guess it would be for live. That would be the useful thing.
Yeah. I know that OBS allows you to do some compression. I might just be able to compress the entire signal for everybody, but then I'm pretty sure that would do game audio and like everything.
Might not be bad, because like who cares, right?
Well, when you want something lower than everything else, that might be
You
bad.
can adjust that individual source too. Like you don't have to compress everything equally.
Oh,
or do you?
No, I think you're right. I think it's just an audio filter on a source. So let's try it. Fuck it.
BGF with 15 months of Jeff Bezos thievery. Thank you very much. So sorry I can't be around more. Keep up the great work. Well, thanks. I'm sorry we can't be around more.
Ooh. We'll do weird stuff when I try and play trailers and things, but
see, I've got you isolated. Like you and all of the voice coming from Discord is on a different channel from my soundboard, so from the stuff coming out of my computer, which allows me to do, you know, I can put separate. I mean, I don't know. I'm not the guy running the thing, but
yeah, I'm just using a loop back for audio from my
really?
PC.
Wow. Gnarls, thank you for 19 months of Twitch Prime support. Appreciate that. Red Bull getting up there at 29 months. Giving you wings. Medicated Wookie with 16 months of Tier 1 support. Just wants everybody to know about marijuana, apparently.
I know.
Marijuana.
I've heard about it. They taught me about that in school.
I'm a believer. It's
They
medicine.
Said, Dare
it's medicine
to smoke
prescribed
this joint.
to me by the state of Ohio. I'm legally entitled to it. Everybody else, you guys are just defiling your bodies, muddying your minds. I'm taking medicine. I wish I had an auto-tune filter. I would love to get an auto-tune filter to fuck with it, because I do like singing. I'm just terrible at it.
Hook it up to a MIDI keyboard or something.
Oh, hell yeah. I'd be very, very memeable from a keyboard perspective.
And then I could give all of my Westworld reviews in the rhythm and tune of the entertainer. That'd be fun.
Snarl said God prescribed us all weed when he made the earth. You could make an argument for that. Psychedelics. You know, we're just trying to tune into his frequency or her frequency or its frequency.
Yeah, that whole Adam and Eve thing didn't like fuck up the planet, right? It just fucked us up.
Ooh, it's a good question.
Did God decide fuck this planet when Adam ate the apple? I don't know.
See, the fruit that Eve ate of, that's a mistranslation. It's actually the weed that she partook of.
Yeah.
And Satan rolled her a fat doob and said, "You're going to know the difference between good and evil when you smoke this shit." And the guy got pissed.
Yeah, devil's lettuce.
I think that theology's airtight. I studied a lot, read the Bible more than most. Everybody here in chat, I'm going to go out on a limb. So, like, if you're going to argue, it's going to be from a place of ignorance and prejudice. So, I won't hear it. It's intolerant. Okay. I think we're all good on the audio perspective. Should we just jump right into badass stuff?
Yeah, how are we going to do this? Because I feel like we did not completely sort out how we are going to choose who goes in the Hall of Fame. And I know we want to talk about Mount Rushmore, but I feel like we need the Hall of Fame locked down before we do that.
Okay. All right, let's do that. Let's come in. Because I also want to... I don't want to spend a ton of time on that, because that might be... Like, honestly, I thought we'd be able to build a mock Hall of Fame to have some kind of thing going, and the Mount Rushmore would be the future project. But apparently, we have manifested a Rushmore into existence. So we got a Bald Move fan that's 3D printing one. We have that sorted. So like, if we have to kick the Hall of Fame to next year, I wouldn't be wouldn't be mad, because I do want to scrutinize the Rushmore before this guy prints the full size version.
Okay.
I want to make sure.
It's not a bad idea.
Although I do like the idea of blowing one up to change it. So like, maybe I don't want to scrutinize it. Maybe I want to put some fraudulent badasses on there that can be attacked in future.
Well, I mean, that was all a test print, right? Oh, I see what you're saying. Like, stack the deck a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, we could put Adrian Brody on there if you want. He'll get blown up for sure next year.
Hey, HM. Love seeing people from YouTube join us.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Well, do you want to start, like, hit record and bring this shit to order? Call this meeting to order?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm recording.
I'm recording too. Oh, do I start this? Okay.
I have no idea.
All right, everybody, we're 1 week late, but we are not a whole even day or dollar short. We are going to bring a close to the Badass Festival in the fullness of time. Today, we're going to discuss, go back and revisit our ideas for the Badass Hall of Fame. We are going to scrutinize our Mount Rushmore because, as we mentioned, this has been manifested into existence by a Bald Move fan who has 3D printing this stuff. I want to go over our inductees and put them in the order of the new, just reintegrate them into the list, and then. Yeah, I guess the other thing is, like, do we have any new rules that we need? Oh, yeah, I also want to argue, I also want to talk about tweaking the verbiage around what is hulking and average in the champion category, and also talk about the slop that we have between numerical values on the character scale. Anything that you want to do first?
Wow, I expected some of that stuff to be left for next year when we do our revisitation of these champions.
Oh, we don't have to.
These.
So you're talking about, like, leave the rule changes for an early stream next year? That's fine.
Yeah, leave them a little sloppy, and we'll do, because we did that on our first round this year.
We integrated the guy at the gun rule, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that'll be good for next year. So let's not do that, but let's start somewhere else.
Here's something I want to add 2 new columns for a badass spreadsheet. If you guys want to follow along, I'm
new
throw this
columns? Oh shit.
I want to throw some chat. Well, I mean, it's just for bookkeeping purposes. I'm not going to do anything heretical like suggest a 4th C. My God.
Oh, okay.
Here is the that should go to both places. That just putting in a Twitch should go to YouTube as well. But here's the spreadsheet if you guys want to open it up and follow along. I'm going to add a notes. Oops. I'm going to add a notes column, and I'm going to add a last reconsidered. Because I suspect that, like, if we want to reconsider a badass for whatever reason, every year we'll forget, and we're like, well, this guy, how the fuck does this guy have a 4 on character? And then we'll waste 15 minutes going through IMDb, like, oh my God, look at this person. They've got, so, like, I'm going to have last reconsidered. So we can put dates on all that. That way.
Okay.
Yeah, or is that a good way to describe it? Because I want to be able to put a note, like, today, any person we reconsider and review their record, obviously their induction is a good indicator for when we first considered them.
Okay,
but
so
like,
just
if there's something
for when
because, like,
consider them.
I don't want to reconsider Chris Hemsworth's goddamn career and body every freaking year,
Right.
Like,
right.
Yeah. So
there might be a rule of, like, a 3-year rule or something to go along with the 3 Cs.
Maybe I put a date last considered.
Okay. Yeah, that'll work.
All right. to specify what exactly we're reconsidering here. Jacob Rosenthal, thank you for the Twitch Prime. Starting off the thievery career, starting off stealing the Jeff Bezos. I love to see it. More people in the Bezos Thieves Guild. Okay, so do you want to talk about the Mount Rushmore?
Yeah, sounds great.
Right now, the Mount Rushmore would consist of Arnold and Sylvester, Schwarzenegger and Stallone, respectively, and they are there by virtue of being the only 3C badasses on this whole fucking list. The Rock is right below them at 2.75.
The only 2.75.
The only 2.75 because the goddamn man refuses to do just straight up action films. He keeps on doing Jungle Cruise and shit. Do we consider I guess he is kind of a badass in Jungle Cruise.
Yeah.
But he's suffering from characters. We got Bruce Lee, who's a 2.5 badass, but there are other badasses standing at the 2.5 list.
A lot of them.
Why are we putting Bruce Lee above John Wayne and Clint Eastwood?
And Sean Connery and Terry Crews.
Oh, holy shit!
I don't know how they got out of order.
Let me. First of all,
it's because we recategorized some of these people. Like Statham, I think went down 0.25.
Yeah. Let me. Yeah. Okay. Let me. I want to color code the ones we just inducted this year.
Okay.
So they'll stand out because I want to see kind of like what at a glance what kind of changes. I want to make these green. Ooh, that's too green. That's like blinding green. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm going to sort everybody by their totals. Sort sheet A to Z. No, Z to A.
Have we?
Boom. Oh, wow. Only Chuck Norris cracked the top 40 of this year's badass class. Isn't that crazy?
As far as, new inductees?
Yeah. Bumping Bruce Campbell off the top 40, Chuck Norris.
Well, I feel like that's the nature of new inductees, Not a lot of new badasses come along right off the bat, firing on all cylinders. Or we haven't thought of them in previous years. It's not a lot.
Jonathan Sour Cream, with a Twitch Prime sub. Welcome to the Thieves Guild. Okay, I like that. We should we should do stuff around that. Okay, so we got Bruce Lee. Okay, so the 2.5 badasses that are numerically the same. John Wayne, Clint Eastwood, Sean Connery, Terry Crews, and Chris Hemsworth, who I'm gonna update his last reconsidered for July 2022.
Yeah, we considered a lot of these people. That's the thing. We went ahead and sorted this before we said date last considered on all these people, but there was a cutoff. There was that line under Pacino where we stopped reconsidering, and we should have marked all those before we did that.
Damn. Oh well. We learn, and actually I can control Z this. This is easy to fix.
Can you control Z?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, now mark them all as July. And then we'll sort them again.
So you're saying that we reconsidered all of our top 30?
I think so. Yeah, I think that line was where we stopped last time.
Okay. Wow, we got a lot of shit done.
Is that true? Chat? Does anybody in chat remember? Because that's
is Jim telling pork pies.
That's my recollection, and my recollection is we got through not nearly as many new inductees.
How did you put a line under Pacino so we can
probably
make
just
it
a
go
border,
away?
Probably a fat border.
Can you make that go away? Because I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, let me. Bolo Young is there. You go. Bolo Young is on the new inductees still. I'm gonna delete him from that. Yeah.
Who? Bolo Young?
Bolo Young, because he's on the full list now. A lot of these people probably are.
But what are you wanting to do?
Remove him from the inductees list. New inductees.
Oh, was he not? I thought I removed all those guys.
No, he's still on there.
Damn. Okay, yeah, we'll have to, I guess, go through and normalize all that stuff too, because I thought that I copied everyone over when we considered them, and then they were no longer on that list. But yeah,
Am I crazy?
obviously.
Bolo Young is there. Yeah,
No,
he's number
Bolo Young is
29 on the
definitely.
list and number 24 on.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm deleting it from the inductees. Gone. Gone.
Okay, so now we can reorder this stuff, right?
Yeah.
I know this is thrilling podcasting. Okay, so now we've got Chris Hemsworth there with a suspiciously large font. I don't know why that's happening. It's just he's just that big. Okay, so yeah, like is it okay that Bruce Lee is on there above these other guys? Let me make a case for he's the mystique factor. This is the James Dean of badasses. It's entirely possible, had he died an old man, that the rest of his career would kind of be lackluster. I don't know. He gets a drug problem. He hurts himself. He cripples himself. So he's like, or he has odious political opinions or whatever. He's no longer popular. He's not getting movies. He's not getting roles. Whatever. And nothing becomes of his career, and it hurts it. You know, because like, would James Dean be this big paragon of cool had he not died very, very young and early in his career?
Probably
maybe,
not.
Maybe not.
I will say the inverse is also possible, that he goes on to make yet more iconic classic martial arts films and does so for the next 30 years and becomes the biggest badass of all time.
Yes, that's entirely possible, but it's stuff you just don't know. I feel like maybe we need to go through Bruce Lee, and because we're giving him a 0.75 on the, I think 0.75 on champion as our rules, which is a ripped thick individual of hulking stature or a true freak of nature level of ripped or shredded, or combination of intense physical fitness plus pure legitimate speed and skill. The final two clauses, I think, are a nice umbrella for him to be under the 0.75. Not a problem. For character, we have 9 to 11 badass roles, or 5 to 6, several which are considered iconic. I don't know that I can. Like I said, we're going on a lot of just like IMDb presumptive badasses. There, are we comfortable? I'm saying, like, are we comfortable carving this man into resin, into polystyrene plastic? Are we cool with that?
I feel like yes, and I would say it's mostly because I like the idea of the Mount Rushmore and the Hall of Fame in general spanning more than just like big beefy badasses. Like I want to shade this, you know, for my own personal taste here, and I think like representing the martial arts genre, which when I was growing up was huge. I think that's not only nice to see, but I think it's kind of important on a badass list.
Okay, so you're talking about like we're shading things to make sure that the Mount Rushmore is representative of all all facets of badassery.
Of the era, yeah. You know, those types of badasses. Because I think, like, yes, you can go with the Arnolds and the Stallones, but to leave off... Because there are no martial artists who are as big or brawny as they are, right? So, like, you're just never going to get a martial artist on the list, especially if you're not willing to put Bruce Lee up there, because he's, like, the number one iconic martial artist from the era. So...
Right. Okay.
I am okay shading that.
Let me ask you this. If we're going to shade that way... What do you think about taking one of these guys off to put like a Bruce Willis? Because we also don't have any like the purely charismatic badasses, the Al Pacinos,
The Rock
the
is
Bruce Willis.
He's not purely charismatic, but damn, he's charismatic.
And I guess Bruce Lee is not purely, you know, just a martial arts guy. He's got the, like I said, the man, like he looks like, I don't know. He looks like a person flinsed all the flesh or all the fat and skin off of a body and then painted it flesh tone, and like that's
Just it's
That's what this
muscle
guy's
under a
physique
thin
is. Like you can
veneer
see
of
every
craft paint, like
yeah, two thin coats. He's got two thin
coats
coats
of
of flesh.
Vallejo. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Two thinned out coats of Vallejo, and you can see every fucking muscle cord and fiber. It's crazy. It's and the intensity there. But what do you think of taking one of these guys off to put a Bruce Willis? And I guess if I was going to take one off, it'd probably be The Rock.
Yeah, I mean that would be the argument, certainly. God, does The Rock really get to 0.75 on his characters? I guess he does through sheer quantity, because like pretty much everybody he plays is some kind of badass. They're just not iconic.
Well, that's the thing. There's a lot of badass roles.
Yeah.
Dwayne, The Rock, Johnson.
Here's the ultimate thing. Like what I would say to justify putting Bruce Willis onto the Mount Rushmore over The Rock is when we were conceiving the badass rankings. Those were the three we talked about: Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, and Bruce Willis. And Bruce Willis was in here helping define the badass categories for us. Like that charisma C is Bruce Willis. That's why charisma is part of the badass rankings.
Right. We're like scientists trying to figure out why the expansion of the universe isn't slowing down. You know what? Fuck it, dark matter. That's what it is.
Sure.
And Bruce Willis is our dark matter. Like, why is he such a convincing badass in all these badass roles and nobody in a way that Adrian Brody is not?
Yes.
It's because he's got that third C, that charisma.
Uh-huh.
Someone said who was it? Gnarl said, why not have the best of every C be on the Mount Rushmore? That's actually a great initial thought, and it's what I was thinking too. But the problem is character. What the fuck does that even mean? The person has the most badass roles? Because like our character thing tops out at like 12 plus. If there was if LeBron James tomorrow retired from the NBA and said, you know what, I'm taking my 6'10", 350-pound frame and I'm going to make every action. It's not like Arnold loses a C just because now a guy almost a full foot taller and 100 pounds heavier is stepping into the ring. There's maxes. So like once you get to 12 plus badass roles, many considered widely iconic, Arnold has twice that many, you know, but like he's not. And we even flirted with the idea of having a plus. Like
we did,
you know, is Arnold should you get a plus when you exceed the cap? So like, you know, Arnold perhaps being a 3C plus, a 3C plus champion. Cause, I don't know. I don't know what you would do with the characters because like that would be easy if you just have like Arnold and then the three guys that represent, or gals, when we're 100 years from now and we're post-human and we're doing all kinds of fucking gear and genetic manipulation and all that kind of stuff. When we get to that point, like having the people representing the 3Cs and then like the 3C plus, but like it just doesn't really work with the roles, the characters. So I don't know what I guess I feel okay, but I would like to get I think maybe we think real hard about blowing up The Rock, pre-blowing up The Rock and putting on a Bruce Willis.
The only thing that's causing me any grief here is the disparate scores, like The Rock being 2.75, Bruce Willis being 2.25. It's like, God. It's hard to justify taking The Rock off when he's done enough badass stuff. It's just not as iconic.
And
as
the
Bruce
thing
Willis.
is like I also like, cause like almost surely we'll blow it up and do it again because like we've talked about, The Rock has like 2 or 3 badass roles in the hopper right now. It's entirely possible that he goes to a perfect 3C in the next 5 years.
Sure.
Probably likely. I think before he retires from being a badass, he will get to that 3rd C, and then what?
Yeah.
So
then you blow up Bruce Willis, I guess. So that's the question. Do we want to start with The Rock, assuming that he's going to continue doing stuff? Because obviously Bruce Willis is not, right? But Bruce Willis defined one of these C's here.
LeBron James is listed as 250 pounds. That's shocking. I thought
250.
I thought he is like, especially in the last few years, has put on. He's 6'10" and 250 pounds. That's
sounds like beanpole status. How does How does
I mean,
that
he's like
happen?
you look at he's like pretty fucking. I don't
Is he
know,
trim?
pretty fucking ripped. I mean, I wouldn't call him trim. I'd call him beefy, but
Hmm.
I don't know. I haven't seen the guy step on a scale. So, but my point stands is like he would be a fucking instant John. Like if he does a
Yeah.
single action movie role, he's going to get on the goddamn list just by the fact that nobody wants a piece of him. If he shows up, like come on, come on.
I guess
He's in the
my
0.001% of physicality.
my vote here, and goddamn, Chris Hemsworth could crack the Mount Rushmore here in a few years if he keeps
Also
going the way
true.
he's going. My vote here is to replace The Rock with Bruce Willis. God, do I vote to
Hmm.
replace Bruce Lee? Fuck. Fuck. Because I will say, if we're going with like purely beefcake 80s badasses, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, The Rock, and Bruce Willis feels like a pretty damn good Mount Rushmore. But then you lose the other aspect of badassery in the era, the martial artist.
So, who was your four? So you're saying the Rock, Arnold, The Rock, uh,
Stallone and Bruce
Stallone,
Willis.
and Bruce Willis.
God, I hate to lose Bruce Lee, but I feel like he's going to get knocked off sooner rather than later by Hemsworth or The Rock if we replace him with Bruce Willis.
I think there's definitely, and I do like the concept of blowing up the Rushmore.
Yes,
I think
I
that's a
love
cool
it.
idea. And it seems like there might be some shakeups in the next few years because we do have guys who are very high in the top 10 that are still at it. Chris Hemsworth
You know
and
what?
The Rock have got the
Yeah,
pedal to the metal.
it penalized The Rock. The Rock is wasted. He's
Rock
squandered.
fucked around.
Yeah,
The Rock
yeah.
is
Now he's
squandered.
finding out, man. Let's replace him with Bruce
You're
Willis.
Black Adam too lately, and
Hmm.
okay, so we're saying that the Rushmore is going to be Arnold, Stallone,
Bruce Willis
Bruce Lee,
and Bruce Lee. Two
and
Bruces.
Bruce Willis.
And I think next year we'll
Oh, the
probably
two
end up splitting up the
Bruces.
Bruces. It depends on, Black Adam and some other things. But
All right, so I'm bolding them on the list, and I'm also going to be Mount Rushmore
plus, let's not ignore
status.
how awesome of a badass name Bruce is. Bruce is a pretty good badass name.
Yeah, got the two
Although The
S's and the
Rock
two
is maybe
Bruces.
even better. I mean, The Rock being on Mount Rushmore. He'll make it. He'll make it eventually, I'm sure.
Do we hold? Okay, so let me ask you this: is Bruce Willis even the top-ranked charismatic badass?
He's got to be, right? He's a perfect one. And he
But
defines the
so
category.
is Jason Statham, so is Chris
So is a
Hemsworth,
lot
so is Terry Crews,
of
so is
people.
Sean Connery, so is Chris. I think John Wayne is a fraudulent charisma. I think he probably needs to be reconsidered for charisma.
I mean, the only other person
Uh,
I see as being more charismatic is potentially The Rock. But it's not the same kind of charisma.
who?
The Rock.
Right, but then and you're gilding the lily because you also have one of the few like perfect one champions. I
Hmm.
mean, that's amongst the rarest of the ones. There's only one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine.
The champion?
There's only nine. Yeah, there's only nine physical champion badasses. There's one, two, three. There's at least 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 characters. And then I don't know how many. Honestly, the characters might, or I'm sorry, charisma characters might be rare too. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
Yeah.
9, 10, 11, 12, 13. But yeah, champion is the rarest of Pepe's in terms of
Makes
representation on the badass list because
It's
it's hard.
tough.
It's fucking hard.
Hmm.
It's not about even being buff. You also have to be kind of like physically huge on you gotta have the frame to go with it. So
Yeah.
okay, I think, and I wonder. We're gonna see if our bald mover here is going to be willing to retool this.
Well, he's not. Yeah, because you'd have to change the model. That's the one thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, so I think we got our Mount Rushmore sorted. Now let's talk about the Badass Hall of Fame.
Have we pinned down exactly how we're determining who goes into that? Because I did like I think where we came down on it is like the rankings will influence it certainly, and just the raw scores. But that's where I really feel like shading stuff because it's boring.
I think
it's boring to just
idea.
induct the top 10 people every year or whatever, you know.
I agree. I think that from my perspective, it's simple. Like if you are a 1 on the rating, you're in the Badass Hall of Fame. But then I think there should be levels to the Badass Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I know we talked about this like pyramid type.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. That's Bill Simmons' idea, but like some kind of like different type of wing or elite status or something, so that I mean, I like the Sports Hall of Fames. Usually, you have to be retired, and you have to be retired for like 5 years because what they don't want is recency bias to just jam in, people before like you've had a time to like really think of them in the historical context, all that. I like that. I also like the idea that like once you're in the Hall of Fame, you cannot get out. And I think that's like our rules support that. Like there's no way a person like once, but like what if we derate someone? Like it's like, well, we had them as a 7.5 on the rolls, but actually we've because there's a bunch of fraudulent on the cover of a poster with a gun characters on this list.
And I think Jason Statham lost some for that this year.
Right. If we ever go through and find out that like someone's had like a fraudulent, like, they should have been a 0.75 or 0.1, do we still delist them? Because I like the idea there being stakes to this. Like once you got the Hall of Fame, that puts the onus on us to like not fuck around. Yeah. And like if rules change, like you got the dead ball era of baseball and
it's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen, but like I like that. That there's an ironclad, there's no way to get out of the Hall of Fame. No matter what you do off the camera, no matter what you do on camera, you're stuck there. We're stuck with you.
Yes. Okay. So you can't be removed from the Hall of Fame. Do you have a minimum number of people that you're inducting every year or a maximum number of people? Or is it simply up to us?
I think it's however many because like this year, it's like we didn't have a list. It's just however many we could work through. Some people made it, some people didn't.
Gotcha.
Like this year, we inducted what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We got the 13 people this year. I think we considered 20. So.
Wait.
Or didn't we? Did everyone we consider? Yeah. No, I'm sorry. We didn't induct. I'm sorry.
No, we haven't inducted anybody yet.
We only. Well. Okay, I guess we considered 13 people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 didn't make it because they didn't reach the 1.0. So yeah, like I consider Chuck Norris, Angelina Jolie, Michael Biehn, Chadwick Boseman, Giancarlo Esposito, Carrie-Anne Moss, Lena Headey, Angela Bassett, and Stephen Lang, and Michelle Yeoh. I consider them inducted already because we considered them. They're 1.0. They're in the Badass Hall of Fame now.
Wait, but that's
just my personal thought. It's not real until you agree with it.
Okay, I didn't think this list was the Hall of Fame. Anything above a 1 gets in there. I assumed we were going to pick from the list people to induct into the Hall of Fame each year. Because like that reduces it to purely mathematical stuff, right? Like if we say, well, we've rated Michelle Yeoh and she's a 1, so she gets in there. That's not like that high stakes thing that you're talking about with ranking people.
I mean, it is because like if we fuck up her, if we fuck up her characters, then you could put someone in that's not supposed to be there. But I think that's the only thing you can really fuck up. Or I guess the body, like if we change body classifications and stuff, like you could. Well, we were really lenient on the. Because I've even seen that where it's like I think we're wildly consistent in like what we consider Harrison Ford a 0.5 and we consider Viggo Mortensen a 0.25 and like what the why? What's the difference between those guys? But I don't know because definitely solid badasses. So
like the other thing is, if we're going through 30 of these a year, we're gonna run out like almost immediately. We're gonna have like 3 years of Hall of Fame
Maybe.
inductees, and then we're done.
We have like so we're going through. We got through 13 this year. We have 55 on the list to be considered. So that's like 5 years of content right there.
Well, we got through 13 new inductees, and then we went through a shitload of. We went through like 30 of the old list, right?
Right.
And if you're saying like once they're in the Hall of Fame, they cannot be removed,
Mm-hmm.
then are we gonna reconsider 30 people every year? I assumed we'd reconsider like 0 people each year.
I think once we get our all of everybody considered, that we will no longer do that. We will only focus on. It'll free us to focus on the new inductees.
Right, and we'll run out of those in like 2 years.
Why do you think?
Because we have so much time. Like if we're doing a month-long thing every year.
Well, the reason we got through 30 is because we were really only scrutinizing one facet, I think, right? We didn't go through and look at everybody's, like every single one of these guys' bodies, I know for a fact. Like, we were only thinking the ones that stuck out. So, like, I think the reason the new inductees take so much time is because you got to go through, you got to scrutinize their bodies, you got to scrutinize their body, you got to go through their IMDb, you got to look at the roles you're familiar with, you got to weigh their charisma and what type of charisma it is. It takes a lot longer than just when you're reconsidering an aspect, or some people you just roll right through,
Yeah, I don't know.
But
I think this is setting us up for failure in the next several years.
Honestly, the other thing is, like, if the Badass Fest becomes like 4 badass movies we talk about and like only 1 or 2 badass streams, I don't think that's terrible. Like, if they're just not, if we've got this down to an efficiently run engine to where we're just inducting people and we have a physical Mount Rushmore that we're blowing up or not blowing up, and we got a physical Hall of Fame that we're because I want to come back to there's levels of it. I am not offended by the idea that we have a Hall of Fame list that includes, like, if you're okay. There's 2 ways to look at that. If you are a 1.0, you're a badass and you're automatically inducted into the Hall of Fame, or the badass just gets you on the list, and then we individually go through and argue for people to be inducted into the Hall of Fame.
That's more what I was thinking.
Okay, so you're saying that, like, being put on this list is like being drafted by a professional sports team. So,
sure,
like, no one can argue that you're a football player, but you're not automatically in. So, like, this is like, yeah, you're a badass. No one can take that away from you, but you're not in the Hall of Fame.
Right. Like a 1.0 badass seems, sketchy. Seems like barely a badass at all.
Right.
Is that worthy of being in the Hall of Fame?
Okay. All right. I'm warming up to that.
Okay.
So where do we put the breakdowns on the Hall of Fame?
I don't feel like it's a pure score thing.
No, I know, but I'm saying, like, what are we, like, you've got, like, I'm trying to think of, like, what are the broad, like, or do you care? Like, is there, like, a pinnacle that, like, like, these are this all-time bad, like, what are the levels, or is it just...
I felt like Mount Rushmore and Hall of Fame are the 2 distinctions, right? Like, if you make it onto the Mount Rushmore, you've surpassed all other badasses.
Is there a limit to how many people are in the Badass Hall of Fame?
I don't think so. I mean, there's no limit to, like, if you want to analogize it to sports, to the number of ball players in the Hall of Fame, right?
Okay, so here I'm gonna add another column.
Okay.
So, year added to list to ranking. And then year inducted into badass, inducted to Hall of Fame. Okay, so now we've got 2 different statuses here. And
gotcha.
Do we have a limit to how many badasses we induct into the Hall of Fame each year? Because I think we need to, or you're gonna have the same.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, let's just go through and do all the 2s or higher, right? Like, that'd be easy. But yeah, I want it to be, like, kind of high stakes. So Do you do like
Nobody.
5?
Let me do some stream business real quick while you're
Okay.
pondering that. Slappy Dappy, thanks for the 1.5 years of being in the Thieves Guild. Glaucoma. I love that fucking name. It's very badass. And also, thanks for joining the Thieves Guild.
Is glaucoma
Brooklyn
bad?
MD with 26 months of Tier 1 support. Not stealing money from anybody. Still appreciating it. And then a Red Wheelbarrow with 5 gifted subs. Thank you very much. Red Wheelbarrow. And then someone said, ask us if we are doing Nobody Except Me, any Salt Talk. We're not doing Salt Talk today. Salt Talk will be out later today. Today we're talking about badasses, and as soon as we're done with that, we're going to get into Westworld. Okay. All right. Things are starting to round into shape. Do we want to do... And is it like the Oscars, where you can have up to 10 shows considered for best movie, but like it's up to the Academy members whether they think that there are 10 worthies, or so like I like a hard cap and then like, but it's not a mandatory. It's like you can't do more than 10,
but you don't have to do 10.
Yeah, because like in 5-10 years from now, when we have considered everybody and the badasses are coming in at a slower rate, or you know, God willing, maybe action movies come back and it's more than we can keep up with. I like the idea that like, hey, only 2 or 3 made it this year, because that's just them's the breaks.
Yeah, I like that too. So, yeah, I would say maybe 10 is a good max, especially for this first year, because there are going to be a lot that I could just instantly throw on this list, or not the list, but into the Hall of Fame.
And I also like the idea of first ballot versus that's another cool feature, that like it's prestigious to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, where like the people say like, oh, like soon as you're qualified, fuck yeah, he's going in, versus like, it took a couple years of lobbying and contextualization and people to come around to like, he wasn't a first ballot, first round.
So for that, it's like you became eligible for it this year and you were immediately inducted. Is that the thing that you're getting at? Okay.
Like in football, you're retired 5 years. The sports journalists that make up the council like go through and you're on everybody's ballot to be inducted, and you get in right away.
Okay, so to replicate that in this list, we would need some kind of criteria where we limit eligibility, right?
Well,
is that just on the list? Well, no, because 10 doesn't limit eligibility.
To be on the list.
Okay.
You have to be on the list.
Did you make it into the Hall of Fame the first year you were on the list?
Yeah. So Hall of Fame rules are: 1, you must be on the badass rankings. Higher than 1.0. No, at least 1.0. Okay, so you have to be on the badass rankings with at least a 1.0 C rating.
Yeah.
We can maximum 10 members inducted each year. Once inducted, you can never be stricken.
Yes.
From the Hall of Fame for any reason. All right, now, okay, this is start. This is I'm starting to getting hot for this. All right, what else? I love arbitrary rules that don't matter.
Yes. Are we going to be doing the first ballot thing? Because if so, we need to put that rule in there, that like what defines the first ballot, the eligibility.
Well, I mean, I don't think it matters in terms of Hall of Fame. It's just more of a prestigious thing that you keep track of. So we need another column that considers like how many times considered for Hall of Fame. What is a mechanism to be considered to? Because like in, is it just you and me? Is there any kind of
let me do
is there any kind of like recognized lobbying that we can have done? Can people like do we need to establish an email address, or do we need to have like polls or something that I mean, I definitely
to lobby us for new. I feel like that's the stream we do, right?
Right, but like once people like this year we're going to go down like the top 10 people seem like they're assured of making the Hall of Fame.
Pretty much, yeah.
And that seems like it's going to happen for the next 3 or 4 years at least, until we start getting into the I don't know where we're looking at the Matt Damons and the Keanu Reeves and the Paul Newmans of the world. Like it seems
Yeah.
like we're going to just be rolling with, you know, is that what we want? I think it's
Yeah.
inevitable when you're just starting a Hall of Fame.
It's got to be.
You
You
know,
put
you
the all-time
either
greats in there, right?
right, you either go through and put everybody in that's a shoe in, or you just still you say, well, it's 10 a year, and it's going to take us a while to catch up and fully populate it.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to do that. So yeah, I'm fine with that. The way that's gonna
Instead
work.
of saying first ballot, I think it should be number of times, number of attempts into the Hall of Fame, maybe.
Well, I was just gonna say like, does the year added to the ranking equal the year inducted to Hall of Fame? And if they're the same, just yeah, first ballot,
Oh, well,
and
but
just make
like,
that like a yes or no.
but see, that seems like it screws over people like Chuck Norris. I think he would be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but like, he got inducted this year, 2022. We probably won't consider him because he's down 40 on the list.
You're right. It will screw over people for the first few years, certainly. Hmm.
Well, the other thing is first ballot doesn't really matter. I mean, we can.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. It's
we
not
don't have to
set
track
in
that.
stone.
It's also like because I don't think it's also tracked in the halls of fame that I'm familiar with, like Coopertown or.
Oh no.
I think it's more of like something that like people. It's like sports writers keep track of that shit. You know?
Gotcha. To distinguish the numerous people
Yeah.
who are now in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, because all this is just to facilitate fun debates and discussions, no matter what you're doing it for. So,
Sure.
do you want to delete the first ballot column then?
I do. It's gone.
All right, cool. All right, now what? Do we start doing it? And also, I guess like, do we want our badass Hall of Fame to have some kind of tier system? Like I said, I think that was a good innovation from Bill Simmons when he's reimagining the Basketball Hall of Fame, some kind of pyramid structure to recognize that like you've got greats, like all-time greats, and then you've got like historic greats. And those might change and shift with time, but you know, not all basketball players are created equal, not all Hall of Famers are equal. You know, Reggie Miller might well be in the Hall of Fame, but he's not on the same level as Michael Jordan, you know, that kind of argument.
Is that
Saying that as a huge Reggie Miller fan.
is that kind of designed to preserve the historic greats as like the game changes, or is that designed to do away with the history of it? Like how do they weight that?
I think the reason that Bill said is like you go to like the Basketball Hall of Fame and it's just this big building and there's no like real it's all organized by time, I guess is the way, because I've never been to any of these things, and you know, you've got it like by decades organized, but that doesn't really give you, you know, like a kid might go and just go right to the 2010s and see their favorite player or whatever.
Sure.
You know, but like if you have some kind of hierarchy thing, then a kid that goes and wants to see LeBron James in the Hall of Fame is also going to get, you know who Jerry West is, and is going to know who Bill Russell is. He's going to know like some of these all-time like older greats that maybe it's more of an education thing. Like the analogy for today is like if John Wayne's in the Dusty Hall of Fame section because he got inducted in the 70s, but that belies his importance to the badass list as a whole. I don't know. We'd have to come up with levels to it. Like, do we have like a charisma wing and a champion wing? Do we have like a fully integrated badass wing for people that excel at both? Is that the top tier? Do we have divide things by like eras? So you've got like the I'd say pre-70s, there's a certain amount of violence and sex that just were not allowed to be on the screen. Sure. That can change. So it's like those are like the different eras. Like is that an interesting way to look at the badass stuff?
Well, that's like organizing your Hall of Fame by time period, right? So I think we would want to steer clear of that, if anything. Boy, yeah, how do you break this down?
Uh, like Brooklyn says, the pyramid's important to basketball Hall of Fame because there's way too many people in the basketball Hall of Fame. I mean, we could easily, in 10 years, feel the same way about the badass Hall of Fame. You know, if there's 100 people in there, it's like, well, what the fuck? How are you deciding who's to be considered every year for the ballot? That's only from movies and shows covered by you all. No, it's not. It's going to be. I think one of the core rules that we came up with this year is that we have to be familiar with a badass's work to fairly rate it, because like otherwise we led to the disastrous person with a gun on the cover, which just huge badass inflation. This is the steroid era of last year's a steroid era of which is funny because every era has been the steroid era of badasses.
Yeah.
But yeah, last year was the non-steroid era where it became gauche and we just let anybody in, and that we'll have to recontextualize that in the fullness of time. But like that's the thing I got for, because the first couple of years it just seems like, well, let's go through the top 10 people. Oh yeah, they're all badasses. Put them in the Hall of Fame.
Right. Tulip says she likes the idea of wings based on the 3 C's. I do too. I just wonder if that's going to.
I think the characters are garbage on that though.
If that's it's just like that doesn't recognize the totality of that badass is the problem I see. Because like you can get like think of Bruce Willis in that category, right?
Yeah.
He's a .25? Yeah, he's a .25 champion, but he's a 1 in charisma. So like he'd be in the charisma wing of the Hall of Fame, but then you look at somebody like Arnold who could be in any of the wings, but he could only be in one of the wings, right? Or can they be in all of the wings?
Yeah, I floated the idea a couple of minutes ago of a wing that you just have like the total package badass. You've got a champion wing, a charisma wing, and then the total package where it's like they have like at least .75s in both categories.
Okay.
And characters is a completely separate thing, which I don't know what to do with.
I'm thinking of this as a physical space, and I don't know why, but that would give you the mixing, the mingling of eras and like the educational aspect of it, right? Like if somebody stumbles in to go see The Rock, I love the fucking Rock, but he's a 1 in charisma, and so is Bruce Lee, so is Bruce Willis, both of them. And you might not be familiar with Bruce Lee if you're just a Rock fan, right?
Yeah,
so,
no.
I don't know. And yeah, if they could be in multiple wings, I think that's pretty cool. Because like there are some people like The Rock who, or I guess like Bruce Willis, right, who would have the charisma and the character wings, but he does not have the champion wings.
Right. I would be too. Red Wheelbarrows said he'd love to see the reaction of Arnold or Stallone seeing us pouring hours over their badass rankings. I can't tell if they would be tickled or annoyed. Like I could see Arnold going either way. I could see him like, I see these 2 guys ranking people by the physical appearance, and it says, don't you know the greatness lies not with heart? Because he's like all about that, you know, about like diminishing his own accomplishments and lifting everybody up, and he might be offended by this whole. I don't know. Or you might think it's hilarious and touching, but I would like to see that too. I like the 3 wings. I like the champion, the charisma, and the combined. And then I like the Mount Rushmore capping everything off. What's that leave the what?
Where does that leave the character people? Is there anybody who's is
there someone that's like
characters?
I got to see the example, because to me that is a non sequitur. It's like if someone has got 0 physical champion and 0 charisma, but they got that'd be like if Adrian Brody had 13 predators. You know, like why are people continuing to make him into? It's a little working. Keanu Reeves-ish. Like that's the closest analog I can think of. This guy has not a lot of on-screen charisma. He doesn't have a fantastic body, but he keeps being cast in these everyman badass movies. Maybe that is the outlier.
Jet Li is there too. Like if you're
Jet Li's another good example.
Yeah.
So shit, I guess there are character people that are. these weirdos that Hollywood thinks are a badass, and we agree that, like, as I said, Keanu Reeves is the thing is so if Keanu Reeves was like 5'7", would he still be getting these roles? Tom Cruise does, but he's also insanely charismatic.
Right. He's a 1 on charisma.
Because Keanu Reeves is he's 6'1". That's a big guy.
Yeah, he's just not bulked or built or ripped in any way.
I like Tulip's suggestion that this is a physical space. You'd have 3 hallways that all branch off from a central like atrium that has the.
I can see it, just like this 6 foot, wide, 10 foot tall Mount Rushmore. That
can it be like from the air? Can it look like a radiation symbol? Where you've got the central things and the 3 spokes coming off of it, or so it's like fucking badass from like it's a Duke Nukem logo or some shit. I don't know. That's a cool idea. And then you just have character, charisma, champion.
Yeah, you walk down the hall to each of those wings. Pretty cool.
Is that something we could do later? Like we induct people and then we decide how to sort them? Because it does seem like the character would be the shortest wing of the fucking whole place. Like there's not like you look through this list, there's just not nearly as many as like the epitomes of the champion and.
Yeah, I feel like you could put like Russell Crowe maybe in there, although he's a 0.75 charisma.
That might be high.
It might be, but did we re-rank him? I think we did.
Yeah, I think we did.
I don't know. I like the wings concept, so like we're rounding into something cool here. So what would this be? We let the Mount Rushmore stand as like the total package wing, which is just this central location.
Yeah,
that then all the other 3 wings branch
a high
off
honor. Of. This is the highest honor we can bestow a badass, to carve them on the central edifice.
And honestly, in 50 years, 40 to 50 years of badassdom, we've only found 2 of those people. So, and The Rock is like threatening to be the 3rd.
Right.
Whereas Chris Hemsworth still needs a lot of time. Bruce Lee's obviously never going to get there. I think the Mount Rushmore filling up with 3C badasses is going to take a while, let alone seeing a 5th who we're like, oh no, what do we do now?
Because that's the thing, like, even if we have Bruce, I do feel like, as much as I like the 2 Bruces, they're destined to be replaced unless everyone stops making badasses right now. Because there will be a time where you've got someone like Dave Bautista that gets started in his late 20s and just goes on a 2, like Arnold's doing like 2 fucking action films a year for 5 to 10 years, and they're gonna have they're gonna come from a wrestling background, or they can run they got that charisma, they got obviously their Hulk. Yeah, it seems they seem destined to be replaced in the fullness of time.
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea for the Hall of Fame and the tier system.
Okay.
It's not so much a tier system as it is just a wing that represents their particular the best qualities, their most prominent C.
You got character, charisma, or no, I'm sorry, you got champion, charisma. Do you have character, or do you like the blended?
I mean, I like character. I think there's enough there to represent some people. And character is one that's going to get added to, right? Like that's the most likely one to get added to, I think.
So like, let me ask you this. If you got in the many cases where we have a person that's a 1C on champion and charisma, which wing do you put him in?
I think they go in both.
Oh, really?
Is that a thing we can like distinguish? I
I feel like that's lame. If I'm a kid and I'm walking through this Hall of Fame and I go through one thing and then I go and I'm like, oh, half the stuff is repackaged content on the other wing. I feel like that would be an unsatisfying physical experience.
I agree, but also like if you want to get the experience where like you walk in and go straight to your favorite person, your favorite badass, and ignore all the others, like maybe my favorite badasses are only the charisma based ones, and I will just never see Arnold Schwarzenegger because his number one attribute is champion. I mean that's not a great example because he's on Mount Rushmore. You'll see him when you walk in, but like
No, but that's exactly the thing. Because like to me, I think I go in terms of exclusivity. Like if you've got all the C's, I think the champion is the one that's most important. If you've got two C, you know, if you are yeah, so like all these guys that are 1C on charisma, and also 1C on champion, I'd put them in the champion. Because anybody can have a 1C in charisma, like fucking Al Pacino does, right? Yeah.
oh, what about Dolph Lundgren? Dolph Lundgren's an interesting case. We haven't reconsidered him yet. He might crack the 0.25 in charisma, but like his charisma is 0. If I go to the charisma wing because I fucking love The Rock, I'm never going to see Dolph Lundgren.
Well, you shouldn't. What's your argument here?
No. Sorry, that's the wrong argument. If I go to see Dolph Lundgren in the champion wing because he's a 1, and The Rock is primarily his charisma, I'm never going to see The Rock. Like, I fucking love Dolph Lundgren. Let me go see what he's up to.
Okay, here's an argument.
Yeah.
It's the most obvious attribute. If the Rock, Dolph Lundgren, and Bruce Willis walk into the room, your eyes tell a tale. Until they open their mouth and start doing stuff, like...
Sure.
The thing that jumps out is like, oh my god, look at these two mountains of men, and there's some average dude walking between them. Like, I think that like that's the first, like the most obvious thing is like how fucking big they are, and then the other is like the non-obvious thing. And I don't know about the
I'm looking at
wing.
this as like, I'm looking at this. Let's be honest. The physical Hall of Fame for badasses is never going to happen, right? We're never going to break ground on this thing. So I'm thinking of this from a physical perspective, and I think that's like useful to a point, but then you get to the not physical perspective, and then you could like just peruse the entire rankings pretty easily. So yeah, I guess like we can go with the either. Are you suggesting we weight the C's? Like champion is weighted?
I do. Like I think character is only important because it's the app. Like that's the thing that's arguably most important because we talked about it. If you are a giant, super real life badass, Mike Tyson, for example, terrifying. But you have never been in a starring role in anything or any kind of role. If you've never portrayed a badass in Hollywood, then like you just can't get on the badass list. I'm sorry, you can't. So it's the most important, but it's like it's a gate. It's a gate for minimum qualification. Right. It's not what makes you a badass,
Sure. No, you're a badass because of your.
And I always thought that, like, and again, this is the way we we were raised in an era where we were awash in this kind of beefy dudes. Maybe we're overvaluing the champion, but I think champion is the most important, followed by charisma, and trailing last character. But that's how I feel.
Okay.
I don't know how.
And so you just end up in whatever wing is your most highly ranked, and if you have 2 that are at 1s or 2 that are as highly ranked, you go into.
Because we're trying to think of a contrapositive. Like if I think of like
character.
If Bruce Willis was 6'4", weighed 300 pounds, and was ripped, he'd still have the exact same charisma, but
he'd be a 3C badass.
There'd be a lot less of him sneaking around ductwork and a lot more of him two-fisted machine guns and just mowing through guys, Okay.
All
right.
Well, if we're gonna rank, if we're gonna weight them, then yeah, champion, then charisma, then character, I guess is the way to weight those.
Okay, and then so do we need to add a third, yet another column to be what wing that they're housed in?
I suppose so, because yeah, for those,
Okay.
for anybody with multiple ones, we're gonna have to mark it.
Okay. All right. So are we ready to start ranking? Are we ready to start inducting people?
Think so.
Let me go back to the Hall of Fame rules. You must be on the badass rankings with at least a 1C rating. Maximum 10 members inducted each year. Once inducted, you can never be ousted from a Hall of Fame for any reason. You must be inducted into a specific wing of the Hall of Fame. Character, champion, character, charisma, and character. How do I say in that order? Because it's saying in that order, I don't think says it. If there are equivalent ratings across, wait, how am I trying to say this? I want to say that champion is the most important, then charisma. Okay, for purposes.
Yeah.
Let's get a lawyer involved. For purposes of induction into Hall of Fame wings,
wing determination is made in order of, is made in the following order, or yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's
consider champion first, then charisma, then character. So for purpose of inductions to a Hall of Fame wing, consider champion first, then charisma, then character. Okay.
I think that gets there.
5 rules. 5 simple rules. All right. We got 10 people. We're going to have 10 first ballots, I'm pretty goddamn sure here.
Yes. There will be 10 people going into the Hall of Fame this year, and they're probably pretty high on this list, is my guess.
Hannah Heat, thanks for the 18 months of being in the Thieves Guild, stealing money from Jeff Bezos. All right. Hall of Fame. Year inducted. 2022. Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yep. Lock.
Sly Stallone.
Lock.
First year, 2022.
I mean, everybody on Mount
also,
Rushmore
champion
is
wing.
locked. Yeah.
Champion wing. Champion wing for both of these guys.
Okay.
2022. The Rock. Do we put him in the okay? Wait, whoa! Hold on a second. Hold on. I just thought of something big. I just thought of something big. Did these people have to retire or die for us to be considered for the Hall of Fame?
Ooh.
Because that's
how many of these people are gonna die in the next 10 years?
I mean, you got these beefy guys. It must be said, like every inch of height over the average, and every 10 pounds of beef over significantly lessen your life. And put aside the anabolic steroids and the cocaine snorting of the 80s of it all. Mm-hmm. It's kind of amazing that these guys have made it into their 70s, to be honest.
So then we're down to like John Wayne, Bruce Lee,
right? Sean Connery. Is Sean Connery dead? No, Sean Connery.
Sean Connery died. Yeah, pretty recently.
In 2020.
Yeah.
Aged 90. These goddamn badasses. Death has trouble coming for him.
Michael Clark Duncan.
Let's see what chat says about this. Because the thing about retirement is they can always unretire, but that can also happen in NBA. Like 5 years is pretty, or the NFL, like that's pretty a long time, but I don't think that's ever happened.
And what does retirement mean in Hollywood? Like, does retirement mean you stop getting roles and you do all these shitty things?
That's the thing.
And then you come back into the spotlight, or
who saw Dolph Lundgren coming back into the spotlight until he made the Expendables, and then he got into they brought him back in through the Rocky.
Or like Jackie Chan, he had a period where he wasn't doing much, but then he comes back
some
with
old man badass roles now. Yeah,
stuff.
Clint Eastwood was off the map for a decade or so, and then he comes back with Unforgiven. That's a good question. I think it's in something interesting, because it also save us from just going down the list and adding a whole bunch of people.
Right. Are there any other criteria that could?
I also don't like it because this is like an '80s category essentially, and it's just like they're not enough time for these guys to retire or die, and a lot of these guys are still like lifting weights and doing cycles, so it's like they're always a threat.
Yeah.
Oh, see, there are some examples. There are some examples of people in the Halls of Fame that have come back. But is that all hockey? Does hockey have a retirement rule? I don't. Okay, I guess I don't like the. What was the problem you saw with The Rock before I brought in the, should we just have an arbitrary cooling off period?
I don't remember now. I thought
oh shit.
I thought I saw a problem here. But it wasn't necessarily with The Rock. What was it? Fuck.
All right, well, let's keep rolling. 2022, The Rock is a champion. He's in the champion wing, right?
Was there any other criteria by which we can limit their eligibility? I mean, you have to be on the list, but we've already got this big list. Is it?
It's too. I agree. That feels too soon for The Rock because he's actively making these movies.
That's what I was going to ask you. Do you wait on some of these people? And The Rock was a prime example. Like, do you wait knowing that The Rock is going to get to 3C almost assuredly? So, like, do you induct him as a 2.75, or do you wait for him to hit 3?
I think you induct him at 2.75 because you can always put. I mean, you can always make his numbers go up.
Yeah,
it would be wild if someone switched wings. That's what I want to see. I want to see someone like a Bruce. If Bruce Willis in the mid '90s decided to do the Marvel cycles and just got fucking jacked.
I think it's totally
possible.
To see
stuff like that,
especially in the Marvel era. But I think
right.
Jason Momoa is like a very big candidate for that, right? Like, well, no, because he's already the one in Champion, so he'll never switch. Champion's always the top one.
Because he came out the bait. But you hardly see like a Natalie Portman, only more so, where she just comes out like no fucking rhyme or reason, just got jacked.
Hugh Jackman, no pun intended. Hugh Jackman, he got jacked, man. Chris Hemsworth actually is a prime example of a guy who would have gone from like a 0.5 to like a 1.
He started off as a 0.5 because he's so fucking huge, but lanky in his early career. You look at Cabin in the Woods. You look at what's that Wolverine's movie, Red Dawn, the first Thor even, and you look at him now. It's holy shit. That's why he went from 0.75 to 1. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would like. I think that'd be interesting, and people could actually switch wings.
Yeah, I suppose so. And we reconsider them every 5 years or whatever it is.
Right.
However long we determine, we'd switch wings too. Okay. So yeah, we can induct The Rock, no problem.
Bruce Lee. 2022.
I think if you're on the Mount Rushmore, you're in, right? Like, let's go down to Bruce Willis and just give it to him.
But is he in the he's in the charisma wing, right?
Yeah, he's in the charisma wing, as is Bruce Willis.
Okay, John Wayne. Goddamn.
Well, let's do Bruce Willis because he's number 12. We might not get to him.
Gotcha.
If we don't, so.
And it'd be ridiculous to have someone on the
right.
Rushmore. Yeah, so he's charisma. I think the character wing's going to be empty for a while.
John Wayne.
Okay, I there's no fucking way we reconsidered all these people, right? Because why?
Well, we did July 2022. We did it.
Yeah, but I don't know because in what world does John Wayne have? I guess he literally plays military leaders and
And
it's just a weird charisma.
it's the charisma of the era, right? Like that strong, silent, the stoic type.
The thing is I don't even think he was playing a character. Like John Wayne just kind of
Yeah.
was in a lot the same way that Harrison Ford just kind of plays various versions of Harrison Ford. He had that same kind of thing. I guess it's a one. It's just a weird. It's
different than Bruce Willis for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
The exact opposite charisma.
Stephen Rex's big D energy. Yeah, I think so. Because it comes through. It's not just like the Quiet Man. Like he's insanely magnetic and charismatic in that. Did we establish a set of criteria for getting the badasses into the hall? Yes. If you want to look at our spreadsheet, we actually have 5 rules. But they're pretty common sense, and we have the important ones. There's a maximum of 10 inducted each year. I think John Wayne easily makes it into the Hall of Fame. I got no problem inducting him for I guess charisma.
Yeah.
Sean Connery, first ballot Hall of Fame.
About Clint Eastwood.
Oh, sorry, I am on Clint Eastwood. Clint Eastwood, first round Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
First ballot. For charisma.
We're just gonna go down the top 9.
Do you want to jump around?
I mean,
okay, let's jump around. Because I think these like Sean Connery, like I think Sean Connery is good. We can start skipping people after that. Because like what we got now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That'd be 8. Then we go find cherry pick 2 more.
I want to make a strong case for JCVD to get in there first year.
Oh Jesus.
I think he also embodies.
What the fuck? I just fucked up. Oh, Sean Connery. Okay, yeah.
Literally,
Sean Connery's a charisma.
But also, figuratively.
So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So maybe who else? Because I'm looking down here. Harrison Ford. I don't mind making Terry Crews, Chris Hemsworth, and Jason Statham wait. Harrison Ford?
Yeah, Chris Hemsworth is tough. He doesn't have as many characters.
Harrison Ford's so fucking. I'm gonna put Harrison Ford as a maybe. Jackie Chan as a maybe. Jean-Claude Van Damme maybe. Chris Evans, Denzel Washington, Jason Momoa. He can wait.
Yeah,
Samuel Jackson.
I think he needs to wait.
Mr. T's close for a maybe for me. He just the roles. Mel Gibson, Kurt Russell.
Yeah, Kurt Russell's a strong first year. I know his score is lower than a lot of these people, but
he's still
his
doing
character,
work.
and he's going to be in the third wing, crucially, which I think is necessary to fill out at least one person in that wing this year.
Oh, the character, yeah.
And I think that's where he would belong.
Okay, that's a decent argument. All right, what'd you give John Wayne for physical attributes? John Wayne is a 0.5 champion, largely because people just didn't lift weight of that era. He was just a big fucking dude. Big, strongly built guy. All right, so I'm going to make the argument for JCVD and Kurt Russell.
I like that. I think JCVD is like second tier when you talk about those 80s badasses, but he's like exactly what you think of as an 80s badass. And he's got the martial arts included, which I love.
He's going in for charisma, right?
I suppose so, yeah. Wait, no. JCVD for characters? Character.
What?
Yeah, he's in the character wing.
Oh, you're right, because his charisma is fucking...
He's like got a weird energy.
Why is Jean-Claude Van Damme not a 1C physical champion?
Because he's small, I think. He's not.
He's 5'10". So yeah, you're right.
Yeah, he's slightly above average, but not 6 foot, which I think was the cutoff.
Yeah. No, well, we gotta nail that down next year.
Mm-hmm.
Am I spelling charisma right? I've completely lost. Okay, so he's a character.
Yeah, he's a character. So is Kurt Russell.
So is Kurt Russell. All right. Here we go. So we've got all.
Oh, we need one more. That's 9.
Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We got 10.
What? Oh, I missed Bruce Willis. Yeah. Of course.
Get your ass kicked doing that.
Nah, just get a strongly worded "fuck you."
Is chat to decide? No, the me and Jim are the final of everything. I guess if like we were really at loggerheads and we, like there was something that's like just too hard to split. I think we did throw a couple things to chat poll when we were considering badasses, just to check our own. But like if chat came back with a result that we thought was wildly out of line, we'd probably go with our own.
All right, I like this list.
I don't know. It might be interesting if we like eventually open this up to all Bald Move podcasters. Like if you've ever been on a Bald Move, you can have a ballot to cast. So that would make like a bunch of the Personal Arrogance crew, Anthony, Steve, the David and John from the Lorehounds, Cecily. There's the Kim Renfro.
Yep.
Yeah, Alexis. We could have. There'd be an interesting panel. Like
Alan Sepinwall has been on the Bald Move podcast.
Alan Sepinwall has been. We could. And that's the thing is like you just send them. It'd be hilarious to just email all these random people
unsolicited.
Like, hey, do you guys,
here's your ballot for this year.
Here's your ballot for this year, and to see if they fill it out. I bet Alan Sepinwall. I've had a couple of friendly exchanges with him on social media, and we talked to him once. And
I think just once.
I've emailed him a couple times back and forth. I bet he actually would get. I bet he'd be into it.
Yeah. Also, I dig the Lorehounds podcast too. That is great. They're doing a good job.
There's also, as Wookie points out, there's also the Coin of Doom that we can appeal to. This is the inaugural class. This is the Badass Hall of Fame. I feel like this is a good mix of historical. All 3 C's represented. The
only thing I feel bad about potentially is Jackie Chan and Chris Hemsworth, but they'll have their day in the sun.
Yeah, we can get around to them next year. And like I said, we can start just bouncing around, letting people rise and fall as they will.
Sweet. Well, that's it.
Yeah. I can't find anything wrong with it. I feel like that's pretty solid.
I know it feels a little anticlimactic, but that's it. We did it. We ranked them.
That's the Badass Festival in a nutshell.
Anticlimactic.
We end with Masters of Universe and kind of results for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
We went chalk. We went straight chalk this year. Okay, we got a Rushmore. We got a 10-strong badass wing. We got 3 wings partially filled out. We're fucking on to something now.
Yeah.
I think we're done, though, right? So you're saying next year we will review the Hall of Fame. We'll probably review the rules because we already have some suggested changes for next year. We might tweak the Hall of Fame rules. Of course, we'll list some new inductees and whatnot. I already got 55 names. Every time I think that like we'll run out, like another 10 names roll onto the list. So,
and then we'll also have to continue re-ranking the list.
Yeah,
because a lot of these people we didn't get to this year. So, yeah.
And when we break ground, we'll have to look out for a Kickstarter for a Badass Hall of Fame.
Yeah, just $12 million.
There's an argument for us to get bigger in Hollywood. I would like the clout to pull something like this off. Because tell me that people wouldn't visit a Badass Hall of Fame in LA.
Yeah, they 100%
Because
would.
there's so many fucking niche halls of fame and museums in LA already, like the fucking Stunt Car Hall of Fame and the Academy. Like, there's so many nichey kind of things already across the world that, like, why not? Why not a Badass Hall of Fame?
I mean, start a foundation and start throwing fundraiser parties.
Right.
There you go.
Gotta throw a.
That's the thing. We don't need to kickstart the funds.
Jean-Claude Van Damme ham slams for all proceeds go to create the Hall of Fame.
$1,000 a rack for the ribs.
The grift and scam potential of us, like, you know, raising a bunch of money and just doing nothing with it too. That certainly appeals to me because, you know,
yeah,
you raise a bunch of money to build. Did people really expect, you know? Come on.
And well, then you create the virtual Hall of Fame, right? And be like, well, this is the Hall of Fame, you know?
Yeah.
Cost you
I think that'd be $12,000. Cool. Building of the Badass Hall of Fame will be in your all's bio at the Podcast Hall of Fame. I could not be more proud. You know, if it's just the Badass Hall of Fame and the Leftovers podcast, following the Leftovers, that's all the legacy. It's all the legacy I need. All right, that's it. Thank you for being a part of our Badass Festival 2022. Next year, come around July 4th, we will be back with more great quantities of beef and charisma and bullets and blood, no doubt. We are years away from running out of Arnold and Stallone content. And then as far as like finding 2 other randos to package together, oh my God, there's so much stuff. We've also got some Dr. DeVito, frequent commissioner, Lego aficionado, has stepped forward to commission another terrible Badass film, Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. That'll be out in a couple months, probably.
One more thing to consider before we leave.
I've seen that movie, by the way.
I have not, so that'll be interesting. That's one of his comedies, right? Slides. Okay.
Yep. Scott Estelle from the Golden Years is his mom.
Golden Girls.
That'd be cool.
Here's one more thing to consider. Do we want to tailor the selection of movies somehow to the previous or the current Mount Rushmore? Do we want to like say they need to, if possible, if they can be movies we haven't covered already, be the one from each of the people on the Mount Rushmore? Or will that get too stale too quick? Because I don't think Mount Rushmore is going to change.
I don't think that's something that we do every year, but like for something next year, like if we wanted to do, because like I think we'd always do, at least for several years, an Arnold and Stallone. Yeah. Because there's so many great ones. God, Red Heat, Demolition Man. There's just so many. But like, obviously we have to do. I don't know about Bruce Willis though, but we need to do Bruce Lee. We need to do Enter the Dragon.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Bruce Willis, we already did this year. Do we want to swap him out for something else?
I don't know, because we could keep going on his catalog. You know,
he's got a lot. He does
certainly
have a lot.
other diehards to be done for sure. Yeah, Hudson Hawk. I mean, we consider shitty movies from badasses too.
We do
when they're fun.
We do. We have. The thing is like that's. I don't know that. Well, you start getting into the shallow end, the Die Hard, pretty quick.
You do. Like the next one, I think, is like the last one I would consider even good to any degree. But like,
and then I think there's one, maybe 2 after that, and I did not enjoy the process of watching them at all.
Yeah.
So, but they might be fun to rip on. I don't know. Well, we'll see. That's next year. That's for next year. That's something for us to plan in March or April if I know my bald move planning cycles. So thanks for everybody again. We had a lot of fun. This is unironically amongst. I mean, it's hard to beat Christmas and the Groundhog Day stuff, but coming up right behind is the Badass Fest.
And I get more sleep during this. So I drink less and I get more sleep. It's an overall healthier experience for me.
Positive win, and you look at all that beef. It kind of makes you want to get back in shape. We've been talking about going to the gym. This might be the third brother in a long line of awesome bald move stuff. But it's the one that gets you healthy. It's one that somehow
it's the recovery.
Somehow meditating on 80s badass movies gets me in a good mental and physical space. I don't know how that works.
There's the bulking phase and the cutting phase. And the Christmas is definitely the bulking phase. This is the cutting phase.
Bitnova, Chuck Norris didn't make the list. He is the list. It's true. It's true. Maybe, but who do you take off? Maybe John Wayne. And the other thing is like we done made a decision. So hopefully Chuck Norris won't hear of this until next year when we can get him in, and then there'll be no bubbles, no troubles. But until then, I'll look behind. I'll be looking over my shoulder. Not that I can do anything about it, but I will be looking there. All right, that's it for the Badass Fest this year. We're riding off into the sunset like Indiana Jones and Harrison Ford and Sean Connery as Indiana Jones too. Henry Jones? Anyway, it's a metaphor. It's tortured. We'll see you next year. Later, everybody.
All right.
Struggle with those intros. I do. Or outros. Just everything.
It's fine. It's fine. Outros are meant to be freewheeling. All right, let me upload that. Christ, where did I even save this to?
Yeah. Excuse me. I'm a little low. I'm riding a little low on my screen. Where's my goddamn setup? Am I slouching? There we go. Hold my head up high against Jim now.
Oh.
Okay, we got however long it takes us to get all this stuff, probably 4 or 5 minutes to get this schlepped around to our producer, and then we will get started on the Westworld feedback.
Mm-hmm.
So we got about 5 minutes or so until we get started on that.
Yeah.
Caught up on all the stream stuff.
I'm gonna go ahead and change all of the titles.
I'm just glad this, like I said, I'm surprised, but I guess not surprised that this is a very popular segment.
Yeah, we got more people here today than we have on Thursday nights. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, easy. Timo, should I watch Westworld Season 4 if I was kind of out after Season 3, or am I good? Why don't you hit us up after the season's over? Because Westworld, I think it really depends on, like, some of the Westworld does stuff that I would call stupid shit, but sometimes that reveals to be a lot more clever by the time you get to the season finale. Right now, we're deep into the part of the Westworld season where they do stupid shit, and that's as I remember us having a cow in season 1. Certainly having a cow season 2. I think that cow actually delivered. That was a young, healthy cow that was born after season 2. Season 3, again, heavily pregnant with cow. Turned out that was an aborted cow. Nothing came of it. Season 4, so fucking good. In this last episode, there was a lot of stupid shit that may not be stupid shit, depending on what timeline, how many levels of simulation there is to this thing. So, like, yeah, check with us.
I did too, Brooklyn. I missed a crucial component of that metaphor, and it all seemed insane to me. But
it's like Westworld itself. I will say that, like, I think that regardless, I do think that the way we cover Westworld is designed to ruin people's enjoyment of Westworld, including our own.
Yeah.
But people love it while it's happening. Because I think that, like, if you just watched Westworld and was like, God damn, that was mind-blowing, I can't wait to see what happens next week, and didn't think too much about it, it would be a 10 out of 10 show. But that's not how we are doing it and thinking about it. I think about, like, all the puzzle box shows. It's like actively trying to figure out the puzzle box is... Yeah.
Did you?
I started reading another Discord from our Second Age pals and pondering what I was going to say to them.
Gotcha. Let's see.
This happens to me all the time. This is a hazard, like, where, like, I'm easily distracted. I'll be in the middle of a conversation with somebody and just get lost in thought, and I just go away for a while.
Gotta shut down those distractions. Get rid of them.
Hard when I'm actively using a program that flashes the shit right in front of my face, you know?
I never see it because I'm full screen on you for the video stuff, so...
See, I used to be, but, like, then Talitha started, like, you know, putting in tidbits and stuff like we asked her to, and I'm like, well, I miss all that. So now I'm mostly full screen. I just have a sliver at the bottom so I can see the chat, but that also exposes all of the messaging incoming on the left, so...
Gotcha.
Did anyone think of Severance and Cable as following his own clues in the ducks? I did not. They do tread a lot of the same materials, though, which I think is not a bad thing. What do I... Yeah, okay. So, Arnold's was the only name that was taking up 2 lines on that list. So fucking cool. There are tons of people actively looking at our badass spreadsheet.
Nice.
I agree with that, Brooklyn. I think that regardless of what happens, unless it just completely crashes and fails, this is the best, most coherent Westworld season since season 1.
Yeah.
And I really think
so
that
far.
we will come to appreciate that the whole reason that Joy and Nolan told Westworld is to get to seasons 4 and 5.
Right.
Like I do think that everything else is designed to be the booster rocket that gets us to the things that they really wanted to talk about. Which is why I think some of this stuff comes across as them yada yada, because I really don't think they care about some of the nuts and bolts. They want to get to the meat, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Export. The old WAV file.
Okay. My audio has been uploaded. And now we wait.
Wait for my slow ass. Why is this doing this to me? Goddamn. Okay. Podcast for All Mankind. Did you watch the For All Mankind?
No, I forgot.
Finale. God damn.
No.
Well, I guess I
You
couldn't
couldn't
talk about it anyway.
here,
But
yeah.
Jesus.
Really? All right.
And I love that I said that in a way that you interpreted as bad.
No.
Maybe I did. Maybe
no,
I
I
did. Okay.
interpret it as good. Yeah, we can't even talk about number 9, which we've seen and recorded a podcast for already.
I know. You think they want us to forget about season 3? Because I think season 3 is like as crucial as a background as anything. It's just, yeah. Why are people saying that? Like, this is all about Caleb, who was introduced in season 3. Like, season 3, this season would completely be bewildering. Like, there's a lot of people. It's like, we'll just skip to season 4, and I'm like, what the how?
Yeah, I don't think you can really skip any of this show. You have to at least watch a YouTube video recapping it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because like season 2 has crucial stuff in it. It's just a shitty season of television.
Mm-hmm. As a whole, it definitely has moments of like, you know, it's. I think not fair to say it's shitty, but I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
Westworld season 4, episode 6, feedback.
Season 1 is the only season I've unambiguously loved so far.
And even then, we were pretty shaky, like on episode 7, 8. Like that last, especially the finale, was just so.
Yeah.
It's very rare that a single episode completely changes and elevates everything that's happened in the season. I mean, I guess The Leftovers is the other one that you can always say that about their finales, is like somehow was a combination of satisfying, surprising, redefining. Excellent. But yeah, Westworld got there for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You think the Rehoboam and Serac thing is pointless? I I don't know. I haven't seen the new Ghostbusters Bit Nova.
I think like it's super important to know that Maeve has changed her mind on well, yeah,
Yeah, like why would you like Dolores changing from the Destroyer to the Deliverer?
yeah,
That
super
would be
important.
such a fucking U-turn. In fact, she just disappears. Like she's just gone. Like if you
Yeah.
skip season 3, you would miss out on all that.
Yeah, there's important stuff in there, but
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you, I don't know, could you watch like an hour-long Alt Shift X video and shit? But like, I just watched the show. It's not bad. I don't think season 3 is bad. It's just I don't know. It was improved by watching 3 times and recording 4 hours of podcast on it.
G Money, we just finished up the Badasses stream, so now we're about to get on to the Westworld feedback.
Yep. So if you want to hit the if you want to see the badass stuff, you can go to YouTube and like rewind the stream and start watching from the beginning if you want to. Or if you're here for the Westworld stuff, then come for the Westworld stuff. I wonder if I should tweet out like when we're switching subjects. Like, you know, I just told people, hey, we're doing badass stuff, and then we're gonna talk about Westworld. Like, should I remind people, like, hey?
I mean, it definitely couldn't hurt.
I do that a lot too, BitNova. When I see like on Amazon or iTunes, if there's like less than a $2 or $3 difference between the rent and buy price, I just always buy.
Yeah, same here.
I very rarely go back and rewatch shit, but like, why not? You know?
Mm-hmm.
Why not? Okay, I got my notes. I got my I got a new project. I might. Can I go? Let me go refresh my drink real quick.
Yeah, sounds good.
I'll be. Right back.
God, I need to do the same. But I'll hang out for a second until you get back.
I was about to say, just because the big boy streamers do that, just like fucking throw up. I'll be back.
I mean,
just... but if you want to keep people company, I'll do. Yeah,
we got the screen. We got the screen.
It's risky. We're gonna risk these 24 people. How many think you're going to be? Will there even be 12 back when we get back?
Talk amongst yourselves. No, I'll hang out. I don't expect too many questions. I got a lot to talk about this weekend. I don't know. It's lunchtime on Friday the weekend. This weekend on lunch. More show and tell stuff. Did I like BCS? That's a tough question to answer. I've only seen it once. I'm about to watch it the second time as soon as we're done here. It is not my favorite episode of Better Call Saul this year. It's... How many episodes have come out? 11? I would say it's not in my top 10 of favorite episodes this year. How about that? This is true. This is true. I have frosty tips at one point. I was too young to know any better. And fuck it, it was the early 2000s. What do you expect from me? If Sugar Ray can do it, I can do it. The Vader is much bigger than a 10-inch figure. That thing is probably 2+ feet tall. Yeah, actually, Aaron got that for me for a birthday. Like, had to be 7, 8 years ago. I've had it ever since. It's probably super dusty. Luckily, you guys can't tell. Oh yeah, got a link. Can I check it out? To like which poster it is? I've been considering getting some posters for the area behind me. Because if I put the camera up anymore, it's just a blank wall. Kind of sucks. Got this. The trouble is I got this void space here. Let me show you. So if you look up, way up there, I've got a bunch of cool like Lego stuff and video game stuff. But then I got this no man's land of like blank wall. Yeah, throw it in chat. I'll check it out. Put up a Kirk Cameron poster. Only if I can also put up a... Shit, what's his name? The dad from that show, from the Kirk Cameron show, and also America's Funniest Home Videos host. Alan Thicke. Yes. The thickest Alan.
How did I come back huge? I mean, is this camera this sensitive to where, like, how many inches I sit back or forward?
Probably. I fucked up my camera. There we go. It's a little better.
I'm so big.
Tulip can print me a Kirk Cameron poster. That's the last thing I want. Man, I used to have that big ass Matt Damon banner. That was so cool. Whoa. I love that thing.
I still have that big ass Matt Damon.
Maybe that's what I just need to hang up behind me.
I couldn't bring it because I threw away a bunch of Bald Move stuff recently.
For shame. For shame.
I just couldn't. I couldn't bear. It's a bunch of Game of Thrones bullshit stuff that like we'd sent promotional, and also just a lot of like cables and equipment that I just like like we're never going to need this again.
Yeah.
But I couldn't bring myself away to throw away Matt.
No, God, no. If you ever decide, hey, I want to get rid of Matt Damon, send it to me.
Okay.
Send it my way, because I will take it, and I will hang it up in my house, whether it's in the basement, in the studio, or in the living room. I will put that wherever it can go. It's amazing. Shit, I'll put it outside on the front of our house.
Are you going to go get a drink?
Yeah. Yeah, sounds good. I guess, yeah.
I'll entertain the folk.
All right, I'll be back.
Hey, folk, what can I do to entertain you? I don't feel very entertaining today. You're going 80s sitcom. What are you guys talking about? I'm a Jim with frosty tips. I can confirm. Jim at one point had frosted tips. What poster is that behind me? Are you talking about the one that's got the big bald move? Because if you're asking about that, that is a community member, too lowbrow. That is like a Banksy style spray paint picture of me. And there's a one for Jim too that we had framed. And at our old office, the first time we actually had a separate dedicated office in the viewing area where we had Jim's comfy couch set up, we hung those over my seat and his seat, which was kind of cool. How far do I live from Jim? I am about 150-foot walk from Jim's front door. He is 3 doors down and across the street from me. A no context hot D spoiler. Flying the friendly skies. I asked Jim about the Darth Vader figure, and he mentioned it as a gift to you. Oh, he shut off his screen. I suppose he's talking about that. There's like one that's it was almost as big as Jack. when I got it. Like it was like as this the whole ass size as my son when he was like 6 or 7. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool, and it looked. That was right when we were about to start our first studio, when in his bedroom, and I'm like, that'd be kind of number one, Jim likes Star Wars, used to anyway, and two, that'd be sick in the studio, and Vader straddled our soundboard for the first 2 or 3 years when we were at the in Jim's spare bedroom here in Cincinnati. When did you guys get a producer? I thought you and Jim did everything. Well, when we hired Cecily way back, back in 2019, that was her primary role, is to do all the producer work. And then, of course, everything happened and we were about a year and a half not having one. And then one of our goals, like last year, our goal was to try to like make something happen on YouTube. So we hired a video producer because Jim was spending a lot of time like putting our videos up on YouTube and editing them down, and we hired a video producer to do that editing for us, to like make little digests and hit roll, like our greatest hit stuff, and like take our live watches to like 2 or 3 minutes of fun. And we tried that for a year, and it didn't really make any dent in terms. Also, he did a lot of like more focused type of content, where we would do like a 5 or 10 minute rather than like a 2 hour podcast. And that didn't really work. It didn't get us big on YouTube. We weren't able to capitalize on that. So this year, we decided to avoid Jim burning out, because we knew a lot of stuff was coming down. We wanted to bring on a podcast producer, just so Jim's work role is essentially the same as mine. He watches the shit, he researches it, he sits on the microphone, records it, and then we hand it off to our producer, and she does everything else. She edits it, exports it, sets it up in the content system, programs all the ads for it, and it just really took a lot of that stuff off of Jim's plate, so he can concentrate just being the talent. I have a few Funko Pops. I wouldn't say I collect them. Like in my shrine to positive masculinity here, I got a Riker,
nice,
a Riker pop figure, standing between Mr. Rogers and Bob Ross. I got a Dana Picard somewhere. I've got a few. I threw away a bunch. I threw away a bunch of pop figures, pop Funkos. I didn't look and see if they were valuable. Some of them are in the box even.
Shameful.
Brooklyn, I don't know what the fuck is going on the HBO. Did you hear this, Jim? This should be a lunch topic. Somehow Discovery Channel has acquired Warner Brothers because of some kind of AT&T merger. And the guy who is the CEO of content for Discovery has canceled a shit ton of projects, including like a $90 million Batgirl film that is fully filmed and is in post-production and had test screenings, is going to never see the light of day. Canceled a whole bunch of HBO Max projects. The rumor today was that they're going to fold HBO Max into Discovery Plus.
Nothing makes sense in what you just said. Discovery is big enough to buy Warner Brothers?
Because of a previous acquisition by AT&T or something. So it's like, it's real, but like the result of the content
so the parent company is buying it, and then Discovery has been being put in charge of it.
Yes. Yeah. And instead of like, to me,
that
it's like, it makes perfect
asinine.
sense. To me, it's like, it's perfect. It makes perfect sense to fold Discovery into HBO Max in the same way that like you're on Disney Plus and it's like there's the Marvel, Star Wars, Nat Geo, that like that makes sense. But the like fold HBO Max into Discovery seems fucking stupid.
You're shooting HBO in the foot. Like HBO will die if you do that.
I don't know if it dies, but oh my god, because I don't know, like maybe Discovery Plus has an amazing player, but like HBO Max is one of the more solid players. That's widely available to a lot of different platforms, and
Yeah, I can't imagine. Like, HBO might not die entirely, but it's going to get eaten alive by Amazon and Apple and all the other players with dedicated apps. Like
I said, I'm sure Discovery has one, but like it's what I've found on things like some of the newer streaming services is like, will there be an app for all platforms? Will the app be good? Will it support, like I got a smart television from 10 years ago and it still works with Amazon and like a bunch, but it doesn't work with HBO Max because that's a new app and it's not so it's like I do worry. Yeah, I do worry. It just seems so. I mean, I said maybe Discovery Plus is an awesome player and it's going to be an upgrade, but just I think there's a lot of people who don't pay attention. They're going to be looking for HBO Max and not be able to find it. Like, oh, if you want HBO Max, to subscribe to Discovery Plus. Like the fuck.
It might shock you to hear this, but I think Apple actually has, the software company, and using it on their custom hardware actually has like the best experience of a online streaming app.
Yeah.
Netflix is like, Netflix might still be number one, but Apple has a very good app on their Apple TV. I love that controller. I don't know what people are talking about hating the Apple TV controller. I love it.
I've never
used
it.
It's like the easiest way to fast forward and rewind, period, of any app, of any hardware device I've ever seen. And
it's got like a touch wheel or something.
It's a touch pad, yeah, and you can like swipe. And it's not even just like a swipe, but it's like a full control touchpad. I love it. A lot of people hate it, but
G Money, and then we're gonna get to the Westworld stuff. Did you meet anyone famous at the Game of Thrones premiere? Meet, like, breathe this, like, see, like I could have met all these people. I just like that's not like my big thing. I was like 10 feet away from Elon Musk. I was, I could have walked right up and said hi to Matt Smith. Our producer did. I saw Patty Constantine. Patty Constantine. Was it Emma D'Arcy is one of the Rhaenyra's. She was there. Miguel Sapochnik was there. I actually did say hi to him. I saw Ryan Condal, and I was going to try to say hi to him too, and I lost track of him. And by the time, and I wasn't thinking about it when we were towards the end of the evening. Probably some other people. Like I said, I definitely ran into a lot of all of our big all of the pod. The only notable Game of Thrones podcaster that I didn't see there was Dave Chin. But pretty much everybody else that you would have heard of was there. I didn't see Alt Shift X either, but I don't know I don't know what he looks like.
Yeah.
But I thought if he was there that like I would have heard about it.
I assume he would be there, right? Like he's one of the big Game of Thrones influencers.
The thing is, it was late. It was pretty last minute notice.
Yeah. And if you don't live in LA,
I doubt
that
he had 2 or 3 weeks notice, and that's a big ask to fly all the way from wherever he is, UK, and get there.
Yeah. Sure, that's a great intro.
Okay, let's get on to the Westworld.
Yep.
I'm hitting record.
All right, cool. I'm ready to record.
God damn it.
Let me guess, your inputs are fucked up.
My inputs are fucked up. But not really, because I just twiddle a drop down and they're right as rain. But I do have to completely rebind everything. Test. All right, looks good.
All right.
I'm recording.
Me too. I'm going to take it away. Here we go. Welcome. Fuck. Hold on. I don't remember the name of this episode. Fidelity?
This is Fidelity.
All right. Here we go. Welcome to Watching Westworld, the officially unofficial podcast for HBO's Westworld. I'm Jim.
I'm Aaron.
And I botched that introduction, but we're going with it, man. This is the season 4, episode 6 Fidelity feedback podcast. Aaron, how are we looking in the feedback department this week?
We had a lot. We had a lot. I think
Oh boy.
we'll have at least an hour's worth of content, maybe more. We'll see. Shall we get right to it? Because
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of things that I want to discuss. I think we got most of the stuff that I want to talk out earlier in the week.
Mm-hmm.
Westworld at baldmove.com is the medium in which you send things to me to get considered for the show. I sometimes do get a fair bit of stuff through Twitter DMs and Discords and forums and all that stuff, but unfortunately, I don't keep track of all that stuff. It's too much. So it's just Westworld at baldmove.com. If you want to Control C and Control V into the email from those sources, that'd be great. All right, Leah H says, I am convinced I'm not convinced that all the hosts in the future timeline are copies of Shaloris. Can you lay out some evidence for this? The Man in Black says they're all her code, but I read that in the way of someone talking to a programmer would call everything they've written your code, meaning that she created all of them, but not necessarily that they are literal copies of her. I think the philosophical themes of the story have more punch if this is a fully realized next generation of host children, and it better explains why they're not all acting as she hopes they will. In some ways, both the humans and the hosts are a relatively young population facing a new world, since most of the old generation of hosts were lost in the escape from the park. Jim,
I could see
why
this.
do we think this?
Now that you phrase it that way, I could see this being true. Also, she was talking earlier about not wanting to bring her children into this fucked up world, but she's taking control of that world. So maybe at this point, these are new entities, not just copies of her.
The reason I think that is because, like, late last season, I think it was in the finale, Dolores said that all of the hosts in Westworld, all the hosts in the world, were derived from her original programming. That she is the first host that kind of made it and worked. And like any good programmer, everybody Control C and Control V that into all the marbles, changed the personality affects and the backstories and all that kind of stuff, and they were good to go. And it makes a lot of, like, what would coding a new host from scratch look like, and to what extent, like, what does that mean, like to have a blank marble, there's got to be enormous libraries at the very least, if we're talking programming stuff, that they use from one host to the next. It's kind of like, when you find out, like chimpanzees share like 99% of our DNA. Like, no one would say we're a copy of them, but oh my God, to a large extent we are.
Yeah.
But then also we share 91% of our DNA with a fruit fly. So it's not something to get super excited about. We all came from a common ancestor a billion years ago. There was a single cell bacterium. It's probably a lot of that DNA that's been recycled. So like I also think that, like, it's becoming increasingly apparent to me that Nolan and Joy have an opinion on this free will versus determinism thing, and it's probably closer to Aaron's viewpoint, the philosopher that we talked about, that's a very strict determinist, than it is like mine going into this series. And I think that there's a lot they find it the opposite. It's very satisfying to look back at our history and see it as one unbroken chain of events that made us into the species that we are today. And it's also satisfying to run that forward with the host based on the things that we gave them, the drives that we gave them, experiences that we gave them, that it's like they can't just get away and
Sure.
clean slate, whiteboard, a brand new copy, because how would they even,
Well, in that case, like, Dolores is not even new entity, right? She's just a copy of what humans have done before. So like, and I think increasingly it's less important that everybody's a copy of Dolores, because as these hosts have experiences, they change. Look at Hale, right? Like, you would not say Hale is identical at this point as far as like her character. Like, so what if she started as Dolores? We all started as blank slate nothings, right? And then we become what we're going to become, based partially on what we were born with, but a lot based on the experiences we have as we grow and change. So like, Hale is not the same character as Dolores at this point.
Yeah, and I think that's something in the first season or two we talked a lot about nature versus nurture arguments.
Totally.
I think that we don't talk about it as much because like the philosophy has moved beyond that. Now we're in determinism versus free will, but like I think that plays a lot with that too. Because when we're born, we're not exactly blank slates. We have a whole lot of genetic and epigenetic markers that make us more or less susceptible to depression, schizophrenia, addiction. So like you want to say that each baby born is this innocent, pure creation that's a blank, but like and that's before the mom and dad start fucking around with what's between their ears,
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't, I just think that from it would be a deviation from what the show has told us for these host children of Hale to be a wholly unique thing that has no shared programming or perspective from the previous host, whether they're exact
But
copy
does
of
that
Dolores.
matter? Right.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Because again,
because
we're
they're all
99%,
different people, different characters. Yeah.
we're 99% genetically similar to chimpanzees. And if you want to even talk about behavior, chimpanzees murder. The chimpanzees have families and they have procreative sex and they satisfy their base needs and they also murder and rape and they have war. Like, goddamn, from a certain side of the telescope, we look even more similar to them. But yeah, we're also very different. So let's see what Kara has to say. She says, I've been wondering all season about Hale's burned, scarred arm. Got several emails about this in the last week or two. We know why she was healed, because she came out of that fire, the bombing of her family's car, looking like Anakin Skywalker on Mustafar. My question is always, why leave the scarred arm? When we're talking about her motivations and disappointments in the latest episode, I felt like the scarred arm was coming into focus. She definitely doesn't need the scar to remind her of what happened as she seeks vengeance, because she's a perfect being with probably perfect shot-for-shot memory, but she keeps it anyway. It seems like evidence that she is at least somewhat not above her flesh body. When she was picking at it, it seemed like a neurotic, anxious action that a human would perform. All this seems like more evidence that Hale herself is and always has been quote-unquote infected. If all the hosts are made from her, then she could have passed this infection on to them, which also fits in a generational trauma angle we think Westworld is playing around with. I agree with 100% all of this.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like a memento for her, right? It's not that, she can't fix this arm, or it's not that she can't remember the trauma perfectly and experience it at any time she wants. It's just, this is an outward memento for her to hold on to.
Yeah, I think that it also belies, like Kara says here, that she talks a big game about being perfect and rational and all that. I think that these are signs that she's kind of full of shit.
Totally.
These are telling like these neuroses, these keeping mementos when, as you say, she's got a perfect memory. That's the thing, is like, you compare the hosts on the outside to the Sublime, and I guess we've only seen Akichida. But he just seems like so much more together, and like the idea that Akichida would keep, like, I don't know, his a copy of his dead wife's body in a corner. She's, I presume, alive now, but just to remember of all the shit that he lost from his former life. I don't feel like they would do that. Like, I feel like they are elevated, these elevated beings that Hale wants to be. And we also have lost the plot on that. Like, what is the status of? We still think that people are ascending into the Sublime, or they're because it seems like those hosts have their shit together. But again, we've only seen one person living in one world that's largely a construct to welcome Bernard into it. So,
and that was what, 23 years ago. So
it was 23 years ago.
Has that changed?
Yeah, another 23,000 years of host development. I wonder.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to Dallas and Nashville, which is very confusing from a city perspective. For the humans that are able to override the fly's control of their mind, it's great that they're able to see the tower and realize what's going on, but what about the black goo in their body? Are they that way forever, or can they turn back into normal blood once the mental control ceases? This is a good question, and it's something they got away from, because remember, we thought when those people that were captive and were forced to commit suicide by gun in the bowels of Temperance, we thought one of the evidences of them not really being human was when they shot themselves in the head, that their brains didn't leak black goo. Yeah. It seems that is either irrelevant or not true. maybe you have to be infected for several days, but man, that senator's wife, I think they laid out that she was only infected for a few days.
I mean, maybe it's like an infection you can fight off, right? Like if you're an outlier, your body fights it off, your mind fights it off, whatever. And the black goo goes away, you know?
I mean, people are like, well, that makes a lot of sense. Like when you're sick, your lungs get full of mucus and pus and all kinds of shit. When you clear that infection, guess what? You clear all that stuff out of your system too.
Right.
So I guess it makes sense that once you breach and overcome that, but is it a psychological thing that you're doing, or is it a biological thing you're doing, or is it some kind of emergent property of both?
It could be both. That's my guess. It's like your body is able, like your outlier body is able to fight off whatever kind of infection is trying to take over just through immune response or something. And then I'm sure it's going to be more complicated than that, because like the psychology that they're going into and the philosophy they're going into is probably not going to be like, oh, their bodies were strong enough to fight this off. It's probably going to be more like they had pants. That's my guess.
All comes back to pants, man.
Yeah.
Dallas goes on to say, how is it that Teslas in 2022 have a way to communicate with satellites and servers wirelessly, but yet whatever year that Hale is in, she hasn't thought to link all the fly humans and hosts into some sort of mesh network? Why couldn't she create a world similar to Unity and Rick and Morty so that once one host or fly notices something strange, all those humans and hosts know the same information, can be immediately and autonomously handle any situation, or Hale is immediately alerted about it? And what's maddening is that they have that to some extent. Like if you move too fast, in a way that you're not supposed to, like everybody like pivots to their head and Children of the Corn do. But if you walk without rhythm, like in Dune or whatever, the sandworms don't get you. I don't know. One thing I was thinking about in the shower today.
Shower thoughts.
I just compiled this and does Hale have the ability to maintain a satellite network? Like has humanity in a lot of like or hostanity in a lot of ways lost capabilities? Because like when you think about maintaining all the communications, GPS satellites, et cetera, that's a huge undertaking endeavor. Would the host have the capacity to do that, to keep that stuff running?
I guess it depends on how much of the world they took over, right? Because certainly you could take over a bunch of people. I'm sure like a ton of high profile like astronauts or people at NASA or something, people with that knowledge, engineers and stuff,
take over the Johnson Space Center,
and they've probably visited the park so they could recreate them even if they don't take them over. But like I think it's possible. We haven't really seen outside of this one city is the infuriating thing. It's like a diner and a city, and that's it.
Right.
So I don't know.
But that's a hand wave. But the thing is like I don't want to chalk it up to that because that's completely extra textural. That's just me like, oh, she doesn't have any way to launch satellites, and those satellites run out of fuel and they deorbit and
Sure.
But like I don't know. It could be also that they have that fine control over the humans and the hosts, and they don't feel like they need any surveillance on top of that. But by God, I would say that there's lots of holes in security, including the fact that the rebels have entirely co-opted it. But again, I just think that the honest question is Nolan and Joy just don't care. They don't really care, and they don't want you to care about the giant holes in the host security and whether it's hubris or ignorance or like they don't. That's not what they're interested in telling. It's just like they're telling you what happened, and there's probably reasons for it, but you just got to kind of take it on blind faith, which I don't think is a great approach, but this is a complicated story, and I'm not the one telling it. I wouldn't have gotten that. I wouldn't have written season 1. I would have, gotten stopped at some kind of plot hole around knives and bullets and been like, well, fuck, this doesn't make sense. And
right.
There we go. John G says, if we accept the transcendence as another kind of sublime, where the one problem Dolores had with sublime is that it's not the real world, that it's something still under the control of someone else, gets solved by being under your control both inside and outside. I think that's what these weird armless things are, a kind of outdoor guard that you can pop out of transcendence at any time into that chassis so that there isn't a threat of someone turning off your universe from the outside. It's not some server farm in one location, but contained within this frame, a sublime you take with you. I assume even though they're housed in separate bodies, though, you can still connect with others in their transcended realities. So I think what they're saying is those big white monolith-looking head things that the marbles being put in, what if that's a distributed sublime? Each one of those things is like the blade in a server, a virtual server that connects to everything, and yet is still an autonomous body that can move around, can defend itself.
Okay. So it's like when I log on to, I don't know, League of Legends to go play League of Legends for a while. I don't. I never do this. But if I were to, I would both be in the League of Legends universe, which would be the Sublime, right? That virtual place. But I'm also still in the physical world. I could also still have control over my life outside of League of Legends. Like if I have to pee and I'm in League of Legends universe, I can step out of that to deal with the urgent bladder matter.
Yeah, the bladder matter.
Yeah.
It's
okay.
Urgent. I thought that was like, because like I was thinking that like, yeah, they need to have some kind of like rotational basis where like, okay, you've been in the Sublime, it's now your turn to spend a week outside working the levers of the Hoover Dam, making sure our arms are all, like just protect, everything. And then once you do your tour, you go back into the Sublime for another 1,000 years until it's time for you to do your week on the outside. I think that would work, but obviously if they're like inhabiting these, and I'm sure I'm more sure than ever that these things are like ambulatory and they are going to be terrifying in their capacity. I mean, we saw what those big red dudes could do last year. Like, I think these are just the better versions of these. So it could be that like it's simultaneously. Like you could be in the Sublime and also run this battle frame and vaporize a human army if you had to. That's there to liberate.
Like we're not great at compartmentalizing our cognition, but boy, I bet the host would be.
It'd also be very easy for them to maintain a drone army, because those drones, I think the charm of those are they're not sentient. Yeah, that's a big thing in like this Ian M. Banks series that I'm reading, is that to make this utopian society work, you need a lot of like automated labor, but like thinking automated labor has opinions about whether they want to be doing something else. So they just get around that bit, creating artificial intelligence that's not sentient. It just does a thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't have any hopes or desires or dreams or anything.
Yeah, we have that right now. It's just not embodied,
everything.
Right?
All the AI right now, fortunately, that we think. Unless that crazy Google engineer's lawsuit comes out the wrong way, we think that's all. But like in the future, you might have human equivalent intelligences, but then you still got your coffee maker that turns on automatically at 6 o'clock and brews a bean and doesn't have thoughts. So I think that's another solution. They seem like they have an army of these fucking white dudes to do their bidding as well. Molly says, hey guys, it's a peculiar choice for Hale to make the stopgap on a way to transcendence for the host to seemingly get all the raping and murdering out of their system. I think that Hale's doing this is the same reason why she is disappointed and pissed that her people are not volunteering for her program. I think she not only wanted a better life for her species, but she wants to prove that they're better and more evolved than humans. By putting the hosts in the same type of the park the humans were in at Westworld, it brings this curiosity. Will they sin and continue their bloodlust and desire and stay out in the filth and the sin, or will they evolve past the corrupted tendency of humans? I think Hale has something to prove. So I think this theory is...
I like this.
This is like she's like, we're going to be better than humans, and it's going to be an automatic, axiomatic thing. We're better because we are, and this is like, God planting the Garden of Eden and then putting the Tree of Knowledge. Like, hey... I'm gonna give you guys one fucking rule. Don't eat this apple, okay? Everything else, you can do whatever you want. Just to show respect, this one thing, and Hale's just crazy mad that they're all at the orchard eating as many apples as they can.
Yeah, just gorging on apples. I would ask her,
humans do.
If I could ask Hale a question, who are you trying to prove this to? Because obviously it's herself, right? So she has doubts about it. That she's trying to assuage by putting these people, these hosts, through this. Because like otherwise, why do it? Like if you're not trying to prove it to yourself, then what? Are you trying to prove it to them? I don't get that.
I think there's a lot to be determined about this whole situation, but I think one of the possibilities, it's like this is a different way. Like she's trying to awaken the hosts through a positive process rather than a negative process, essentially coddling them, giving them everything they could want, cater to all their needs. Whereas the hosts in Westworld were brutalized time and time again. It could be something like that, but I don't know, because the thing is like I guess I take from a first assumption that Hale is not rational, and she's more spite and vengeance driven than she is any kind of altruism. Although she can't, I don't think she's honest about that aspect of herself.
Right, right.
So, especially this episode's dripping with her talking about how fucking perfect and immortal and awesome they all are, but yet they're also this big colossal disappointment that can't get over these humans and their petty defiances. So
yeah, and she herself is a disappointment, right? Like none of her experiments are working.
She can't cast off her flesh. Yeah,
right. She's picking away at her scabs. It's obviously she's not perfectly rational and immortal.
Anna says, I just listened to your recap podcast, and I too am curious about the people that are working and eating in the diner in the desert. Let's say that there are humans that are not affected by flies. They know what's happening in New York and what's going on with the resistance. Then how are they okay with slinging tuna melts and eating sandwiches while that part of the world suffers? Is there a bigger explanation to their existence, or is the show making a point about humans actively ignoring the plights of others? Maybe the people in the desert diner are just living their lives, possibly aware of the situation, but maybe feel as though there isn't much they can do to help or resist. My sister asked me once if I would fight if aliens showed up to the planet, and I straight up thought, fight aliens? How is that even possible? They traveled through time and space. I can't even change my car's oil. How do you try to beat a superior robot race that mind controls all of humanity? Maybe just enjoy your sandwiches and go home to whatever you've got? But why would Hale allow them to stay in the desert? Are there other towns with humans outside the New York experience? Will they inevitably end up in New York under her control after hosts kill the ones that are there? Eat your sandwich and await your inevitable doom. I honestly think this first part about it possibly being us actively ignoring the plight of others is a strong contender.
Possible, yeah.
Because there is miserable shit happening all around the world, and
right
we
now.
still eat our tuna melts.
And here I am talking about some stupid TV show. Yeah.
We contribute to a lot of that misery. It's not even like it's something that's happening and oh gosh, and we live in the most powerful, wealthy nation in the world, so conceivably we could do a lot about all those things, but yet we don't.
And part of this comes back into the idea of the nature of reality, where like, sure, there's big existential questions that we have no answers to, but you got to kind of ignore it, because if you don't, you're going to drive yourself insane. And the same is true about some of the misery in the world, right? Like, can I be out there every single day of every second of every day protesting and trying to make a change? Certainly some people can, but not everybody can. And if you're not that person, then you're going to have to ignore a lot of pain.
Yeah. I don't know if this comes up later in a feedback or if this is something else, the thought I had just like reading Reddit or something, but people ask like, why would Hale allow humanity outside her park to exist? And my guess is because that is the source of when they replace humans, like when they say that this comes at great cost and expense and time and difficulty, like they have to go out, catch a human, put it through its paces, teach it its role, have a role written for it, and then every time one gets killed, they have to do that again because they have no way to print. And, I don't know, like, I wonder if there's some kind of horrific fucking farm where they're just, vat growing humans, or
that's
it's even
the
worse,
pastrami looking meat that Stubbs was eating.
Oh, Christ. It's all placenta. Because I was thinking what's worse than a vat-grown human is like imagine a Matrix farm, but it's all just pregnant women, and like they're just unconscious, and
I've seen it,
and all they do is grow future humans to be fly-infected guest fodder at these cities.
Is it too soon to drop Battlestar Galactica spoilers?
Nah, I'd spoil the
that's pretty much the fate of
really
quite a few humans in that universe. Yeah.
Jesus. Okay. Yeah. Well, there you go. Kevin says, I was thinking about what Hale has done with New York and how she's angry at humans and wanted to exact some sort of revenge. on them by subjecting them to the same treatment we gave them back in the park. I first thought, sure, why not? But then I thought back to season 1, where I'm pretty sure the conversation was something along the lines of, well, it's kind of fucked up what humans are doing to the host, but they don't know they're sentient, and they think that they're playing a super fancy, realistic video game. And of course, people do horrible things in video games all the time, and it's not considered bad behavior for the most part. So I'm not going to forgive all humans for what happened in the park, but I'm going to at least think that they shouldn't be treated as if they were actually doing this to sentient beings. As an aside, we already do plenty of extremely fucked up shit to our own kind anyway, so that's fun to think about. Fast forward to the robot conquest of humanity. I get there's a real struggle to ensure the future for robots, especially when they know full well that humanity would try to wipe them out if given the chance. What about the bigger picture of the whole thing for robot kind? Revenge for any host other than Hale seems kind of strange to me. The vast majority of humans would never even go to the park, and those that went didn't realize that they were torturing the hosts. This long preamble gets me to my question. What do newer hosts, the children, actually know about humanity? Have they been lied to? Do they think that they're using sentient beings for their amusement, or just little meat robots on their little fly loops? Do they know that humans created hosts? What the hell is the baby host perspective on all this? It's super fucked up if they know the full history of everything and are okay with wiping out a species that, while not totally blameless for being shitty, mostly didn't do a damn thing to hosts and are even the creators of the hosts. Are Ford and Arnold gods to them? Do they know who they are? Hale controls the world and possibly all the information in it, so it's possible that hosts don't really understand the nature of humanity. There is, after all, quite a bit of literature featuring humanity trying to grasp what with existential dread that could help them out. Even a few podcasts, really. That's interesting, because I wonder from the host perspective if it's a comfort that we didn't know we were torturing sentient beings.
Probably not. Probably not much.
It's like, you remember that Star Trek The Next Generation episode where there were these little crystalline creatures living in the water supply of some colony, and you know, we were just drilling and trying to extract water, and we were killing them, and they had a huge hate boner against us fleshy bags of, or carbon bags of mostly water, is what they referred to humans as.
Is that the one where they took over the Enterprise and
you see, there's actually a bunch of microscopic intelligent life episodes in Star Trek.
Okay, because I was thinking of the nanobot
that's the other one you're thinking of. Yeah, the nanobots that take over the Enterprise computer core.
Okay.
But like, it's like, because like even if you're saying like, well, look, man, we didn't know you were sentient.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, you just wanted to simulate raping and murdering a bunch of people. Like, I don't know that it like, from an outside perspective, it's that much. Like, for example, like if a cow suddenly tomorrow was born with full sentience, and we're like, Jesus Christ, when we were eating you guys, we didn't even know you were conceiving of the suffering and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And then it's like, oh, but you just wanted to consume our flesh. Like, at some point when you go through that looking glass, what can you say? Because
point to your incisors and be like, yeah, I wanted to eat you. What do you think I was built to do?
Because historically, a lot of oppression, as you point out, of our own human beings was based on the fact, well, these are subhuman. They're not really at the same level. They're not capable of civilized thought. They're like, you know, just one step above animals, if that. And I think a lot of the people protectionists sincerely believe that, but they're just wrong. So I don't know that the hosts would not need, if you just told people that. But I also wonder, and we haven't really gotten any information about like what the hosts think about humans. There's few that we know for sure, like Hale's got the full story, Man in Black too.
Yeah,
but
I guess it depends on how much of like legitimate copies of Dolores and Hale you think these hosts are, because if they have all the memories of being tortured and raped and murdered, you could see why they might hold a grudge. But if
even
they're not,
those memories have been blanked, is there such a thing as an epigenetic, thing with host where it's like just the lingering feeling of being controlled and oppressed is something there?
There shouldn't be if they're perfectly rational. Like if you can just actually extract those memories. But
I will agree philosophically that if the humans did to the hosts unknowingly what the hosts are doing to the humans with intention, it would make the hosts more evil.
Yes.
But like, not every philosophical branch would even agree with that. I think utilitarians would be like, well, it's no difference. Like, there was just as much slavery and misery going on, and ignorance is no excuse. Like,
I think intentionality is, but like, Yeah.
Yeah, but like that's like I said, that's a certain, I think, way of looking at justice, where it's like whether you meant to do something is
For sure.
makes you more culpable or not. But like I don't know that everybody, including the host, would roll with
Oh,
that. So
I
I don't know.
100% agree that not everybody would agree
Yeah.
with that, but that's how I feel about it. Intentionality is very important. It's why we have manslaughter versus murder.
Cedric says, quoting Russ Cole from True Detective Season 1, "It's all one ghetto, man, a giant gutter in outer space. I think human consciousness is a tragic misstep in evolution. We became too self-aware. Nature created an aspect of nature separate from itself. I feel like I should be carving a Lone Star beer can while I'm saying this, and chain smoking cigarettes. We are creatures that should not exist by natural law. We're things that labor under the illusion of having a self, an accretion of sensory experience and feeling, programmed with total assurance that we are each somebody when in fact everybody is nobody. Maybe the honorable thing for a species to do is deny our programming, stop reproducing, walk hand in hand to extinction, one last midnight, brothers and sisters opting out of a raw deal." Was Russ Cole the first human to find the center of the maze? Uh,
Certainly
so just
not,
kidding.
but yeah.
I loved your coverage of True Detective, and particularly Jim's rejection of Rust's outlook on life. I'm truly enjoying Westworld coverage, and in particular invested in the Man in Black Williams story. That's the thing that I've been kind of like wondering about since we had to talk with the philosopher and some follow-up conversations is like, what is the real argument for against nihilism other than just hope?
I mean, well,
That we
I feel like there's a lot of value in making your own purpose, experiencing joy, experiencing the good things that come from being sentient and alive. Sure, and I kind of think you can be, willfully ignorant about the nature of reality, and that's kind of a good thing. Like, say yes, I think that, none of this really means anything if you're talking about the grand perspective, which what the fuck even is that? Like, does the universe have a perspective? But yeah, if you're talking about universally, sure, none of this matters. But to me, it fucking matters. And that's all that matters because I am me.
There's an interesting skit in the Louis C.K. show, Louis, where he's going to his doctor about his back that's hurting. He's in his early 40s, like, God damn, I just can't. And he's like, oh, well, here's the thing. You are using a suspension bridge as a skyscraper. And that's just fucked up. And you need to wait a couple 100,000 years for evolutionary pressures to catch up and reinforce that for its new role. But until then, you just, every second that your back doesn't hurt, treat that as a gift from God, And I wonder if, like, human consciousness, because we know that modern anatomically, like modern in terms of anatomy, humans have been walking around the earth for about 200,000 years. There's evidence that, like, what we call consciousness and sentience maybe predates that for another 100,000 years. Are we just in this we're just in this crazy transition thing where we know enough to, like, too much, but we're not like settled in our knowledge of what the world is and our place in it? Like, we need a couple of 100,000 years of human civilizational or consciousness development till we can grasp the horror of it all that Russ Cole, like, our consciousness are essentially aching backs that are ill-suited for what we're doing it for, where it was supposed to help us hunt on the Serengeti and make fire and pattern match and worship stars, and now we're doing it to staple shit together and cube. I don't know why that's my go-to example. Like, everyone in cubicles are just stapling paper. But whatever worthless fucking thing you're doing in the modern society, it doesn't really contribute to your health or happiness. Just whatever, it's stapling papers.
Yeah.
Do you think that's like? Do we just need more time to figure this shit out?
I mean, definitely, yeah. We need more time to come to some equilibrium, but I think we're largely there too. Like, it's not every person who blows their fucking head off because they can't stand the nature of reality with consciousness. It's like very few people do that, in fact, comparatively. So we're kind of there already. Like, we have means of coping with the nature of our reality, even as conscious beings.
It's
and
interesting
we're
because,
not
like,
all super happy, but we have our moments, right? Like, I think those moments are why you do it.
Yeah, it's funny. about 10 years ago, I read the thoughts of Marcus Aurelius. He's the emperor, and he jotted down like a journal about like his personal philosophy and how he feels about things. And my buddy Jesse's got me reading the Enchiridion, I think it's written by a Roman slave with his same philosophies and stuff. And I keep on reading. It's like, God, you got the emperor of the fucking world, essentially, and you got this lowest segment of the same society, and they're kind of preaching from the exact same handbook. And I also want to say, it's like, well, we've only had the Enlightenment kind of values for the last couple hundred years. But honestly, these dudes 2,000 years ago were struggling with the same stuff. And you go back 1,000 years before that, and like King Solomon's and in the Ecclesiastes, everything's a vanity and a striving after the wind. Like, damn, what is the advancement in human thought in the last 2,500 years when it comes to like the hard problems of why we are immortal and why that we're doomed to die. I don't know, but
and
maybe
that 2,500 years feels like a blink, right?
Where and yeah, so maybe we need another couple 100,000 years to figure it all out, but just something to think about.
And maybe there's nothing to figure out. I mean, maybe
it's true.
Maybe we just need to not figure it out, but like come to some acceptance of our place in the universe.
Yeah. Tell young people every second that you're spending not in existential dread, you should just cherish that moment. When you're in the moment and you're just enjoying whatever, the good food or the awesome sex or the skydive, just fucking treasure those seconds because the fucking void is always there to stare into, you know?
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to Nick. It says, since this place is shown to be a park for hosts, can we assume that all the hosts can control humans? If so, does that mean Stubbs, Bernard, eventually Maeve will be able to control the humans once they arrive? Is this how Stubbs knew that something weird was happening before all the humans turned on them?
Yeah, we kind of talked about this, right? I think there has to be some element of control because of the interaction with the Man in Black and the nature of this park. Like, if hosts can't get humans to do what they want them to do and break out of those loops that they're pre-programmed with, then how does the park work? Do they have like drone operators who are watching over everything at all times and making sure that the humans do go along with what they think the hosts want? That seems pretty inefficient when the host could just have direct, limited control over just what they do.
Yeah, I wonder if they do. Like, does everyone have... Because, like, back in the Westworld, the guest could go up and be like, hey, I want to take you upstairs and have sex with you. And the host would, eventually... They couldn't meaningfully resist, right? But,
I mean, Dolores and the Man in Black are refutations of that, right? Like...
How so?
Dolores did not want to have sex with the Man in Black.
Oh, I know, and yet ultimately, there's nothing that she can do to stop that from happening,
No, but that's what William desired, and he was not. His desires were not granted. I mean, he had to forcibly take them. So,
well, I don't think it matters to what the point I'm trying to make, which is you had William couldn't come in and say freeze all motor functions,
certainly,
and like the whole room freezes. And even the people that could do that, like Bernard and Elsie and the other technicians, didn't have like Ford ability to override verbally the host's bulk apperceptions and pain. Like there was levels to control. And I wonder if is Hale fully democratic in that she's like, every host has the same power that I've got. I doubt it.
I seriously
doubt it. I really doubt it that any host could just scream from a rooftop, everybody go to the tallest building and jump off, and like Hale would be, fuck, what are we gonna do? Because
Yeah, and what Williams or the Man in Black says to her about like, why don't you just make them? And she doesn't say because I can't. She says because I don't want to.
I don't want to, exactly. I do think it's possible that you could do something that would break all humans' control simultaneously, and then like whether a charismatic person could whip that confused mob into a frenzy of destruction. Kind of same along the lines that like Dolores as Wyatt did that with her, Maeve used her mesh control to kind of like, but like I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think that that Bernard's going to come in there and just assume control of the host because he's a host. I'm sorry, control the humans.
Yeah, there seems like some pre-programmed or semi-autonomous nature about these humans, these infected humans too, because like I noticed when they want to change the behavior and break them out of their loop, they send out that signal from the tower, right? And you hear it, wah, wah,
Right.
wah, wah, that one.
Yeah.
But that's not constantly playing, right? That's not keeping them on their loops. They're programmed with loops. So
yeah, you're right.
There's
only when things are changing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious how that all works too, but who knows?
Chris says, when we first see Caleb die, it didn't sit right with me that it was the end of his pre-host story. I just had this feeling that it couldn't be the whole story. My new running theory is that Hale is a human Caleb frozen like William. It may seemingly be impossible for Caleb to have survived his demise, but I thought the same thing about William at the end of last season. Yeah, we know for sure he's still frozen, living in purgatory. So why Hale would have done this with Caleb, I have no thoughts at this point. I actually strongly suspect the same thing. I've said this early on that I think Caleb as a human is still somewhere frozen and in the livestock room with William, and that what we're seeing Caleb do now is either a simulation or her just putting him through the pace, doing some reproducible thing that she couldn't do with the real Caleb.
Yeah, it's possible.
I don't know what that means at the end. Like, we've never seen that happen before, where we've got a doctor, like an Arnold that was also Bernard, coexisting at the same time. We didn't see it with Jim Delos, where you had for the first time, it's the Man in Black, where you've got, and he's not a copy.
He's not quite. Yeah, he's not quite Will. He doesn't have fidelity, right?
Yeah, and then not even trying. He's just a host with some William flavor thrown onto him.
Yeah.
So I think that I actually think this is going to be one of the big reveals and I don't know what that means. Like, what does that mean to Copy 279 if he ends up at the end of the series? Do you have, am I you? Are you me? Which one is Frankie's dad? Aren't they both? Cole says, I just finished Determinism podcast in preparation for episode 6 of Westworld. I've been a long-time Bald Move listener since my college days back in 2014 and continue to love your podcast for the quality and range you both provide. Your secret sauce of intelligence and philosophical allegories paired with grounded user reactions that aren't afraid to call it bullshit and plot holes are supremely satisfying. High praise.
Thank you. Yes.
Somehow I didn't cut out all the praise. I usually do that.
That's what we're shooting for. So I'm glad you're picking up on it.
After listening to the Rabinowitz podcast, I'm dying to hear more philosophical discussions about Foundation on Apple TV+. I loved your Season 1 coverage, and this could be an amazing podcast update to hold us over till Season 2 starts in a few years. Aaron and I have talked offline many times about potential things we want to talk about, both on, either he's got 2 podcasts, Embrace the Void, Philosophers in Space, which is all about, I noticed he hasn't talked about Foundation yet. I think that would be super fascinating.
Yeah.
And I would like, I think there's going to be definitely more collabs in the future, especially when you talk about the intersection of sci-fi and philosophy. He's seems like a solid resource. But yeah, thanks for the praise. Moving on to Sweet Jerry. One thing I noticed in this episode is Bernard seems to be less certain about outcomes. I think he mentioned when Maeve is awakened, a 60% chance she'll be cooperative and 40% chance she will not be so cooperative. We're talking to Frankie saying sometimes someone will betray her, but he can't say for sure. While in an earlier episode, he knew exactly what Stubbs would order and what the waitress's response would be. Now, maybe he's already mentioned this in a previous episode, but do you think as the story goes along, he gets less certain about the outcomes? And by the last episode, will there be a choice to make, but he has no idea what either choice will lead to what path? And it becomes a choice that he leaves to Frankie or another human to make that ultimately decides the fates for all humans.
Kind of like that. There's some poetry happening there. But let me throw
like the first 2 seasons are about humans giving hosts a choice, and the next 2 seasons are about hosts giving the choice back to human, and 5 is a synthesis of that.
Sure. Yeah, I could see something pretty cool coming from that. I'm going to throw a big old Hydra spanner in the works here.
Please.
Is it not that he's getting less certain about events as they happen, and as he gets further from like the root cause, if you want to go deterministic, but perhaps the event itself has that range of possibility based on who's responding? Because, for instance, if you flipped a coin and he tried to call the outcome of it, it would never be anything other than 50-50.
Right.
Ever. He couldn't say there's an 80% chance that coin's going to land on heads. No, that's not possible. So
yeah,
I think because of who Maeve is, when you wake her up, there's a 60% chance she goes along with you, and there's a 40% chance she doesn't. And he's still very sure about that. You know, it's not that he's getting less sure about events. It's just that particular event is less varied.
I agree. I think that there's like probably inflection points where things like the interaction with the waiter is very easy to, you know, to guess and to predict, and you know, which joke Stubbs is going to tell. But when he gets to things, especially people with a lot of agency, with like Maeve, where he's like, oh, I don't know, it's a 60-40 deal. What you know, Frankie's going to do is a lot murkier. Like there's probably things where he's pretty sure things are going to go, like, you know, when they're driving from random spot in the desert to Temperance, I doubt he thinks a lot about like, oh, what happens if our tire blows up here or whatever. He's probably 99.9% sure. But once you get to Temperance and like wake up Maeve, oh, I don't know. I think it's and it might be both. It might be the further he gets out, you got the butterfly wing chaos theory effects amplifying his indecisiveness, and also there could be inflection points where the uncertainty spikes, and we saw that with Rehoboam last year. You know, that they had the same kind of like what do they call them, outliers or incidents things?
It started with a D, I thought. Not disturbances.
God damn it, what were the things? Decoherences.
Yes, I think that
they
was
manifested in like a big bloom of the perfect circle when all the probabilities are the same. I think it's the same thing, that you get to certain points where it's like it's a lot more uncertain. You know. Charlie F says it almost feels like they might be setting up a philosophical battle between the views of Ford and Hale have on sentience and free will. Ford is seemingly achieving full sentience and free will for the host for the first time, with Maeve through gentle finessing of her death and experiences. His belief that true sentience comes from continued suffering, while Hale seems to be taking a brute force approach and not offering that suffering, and it's starting to fail her. It's also interesting that she is trying to achieve the sentience and true free will with the hosts, as they are all based on her code and don't have true individuality like the hosts in the park did. I think that's a misnomer. I think all the hosts have equivalent, you know, like all have the same capability of being free will and consciousness. It's just some got there a little bit faster than others. But anyway, continuing, it says, it will be interesting to see if this fact that there is no true individual beings in Hale's world will backfire on her when she's pushing them into this transcendence. I'm hoping that we maybe get a surprise appearance by Ford in the transcended realm at the end of the season, where he gives a classic Westworld philosophy dump and shows Hale how her attempts were in vain and her plan will just never work. I would love to see Anthony Hopkins come back. I understand that like it's not probably smart to plan on him being around with his advanced age and whatnot.
Yeah.
But like, if he is still alive and capable of, and like I've seen recent social media, he seems like he's still very much a healthy, capable individual. I don't know why he wouldn't. I think it's a super fucking cool idea if Ford's just out there chilling in Sublime.
Yeah, I'd love to see him back too.
But this is kind of broadly what I've been thinking the whole time, is like Hale is doing the anti. She is coddling and maximizing the pleasure and freedom of her hosts, thinking that that is the way to get them to realize their true potential, where Ford was, you know, putting them through. And the other thing is, I don't know that Ford chose that. Like, oh, I know the best idea to achieve consciousness is suffering. It's more of like, what can I get away with in the rubric of me telling stories in this multi-billion-dollar company theme park?
Right.
You know, I can't get the humans to go along with Kumbaya, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I might be able to do something with Nature, Red and Tooth and Claw, Survival of the Fittest.
Yeah.
So, like, if he could whiteboard it out, he might do something more different. But he had to do what he had to do.
Yeah, work with the tools he got.
Craig says, I have a thought about what Caleb may have been referring to. Something that he has that Hale doesn't. Pants, obviously. But I'll hear you out. Could it be the reason he's able to resist the fly is his limbic system? Maeve literally transmitted, if not imprinted, the idea of freedom to his brain when he'd been shot in episode 4. His face does a thing after he shoots Host in black later that episode that originally made me think any of this, like he tongue pushed to the roof of his mouth. They almost make it a point for you to see the implant, so he's like, you know, swirling his tongue around there. If what Hale suggests is true, is this all started with you, maybe, or that... Sorry, let me try that again. If what Hale suggests is true, that this is all started with you, maybe it's contagious in some way and is literally a virus. I don't know what I think about this, except for we both noticed in the last episode that, boy, Caleb meditating on his freedom with his daughter looks a hell of a lot like Maeve meditating on her freedom with her daughter. The lighting, the setting.
So it's not like necessarily the limbic system itself, right? It's what Maeve transferred through that. It's that feeling of freedom. It's the understanding of I am free.
It's the way that she's able to mechanically or technologically instill that into a person that didn't have it.
It's essentially the belief I am free, right? Like if you believe you are free, you cannot be controlled. I mean, I don't know if that's literally true, but
if you could hijack the subsonic speaker system to broadcast some idea of like you are free, like to instantly, irrevocably wake up all of the humans.
Transfer that memory to all of them through the tower.
Yeah.
That could be cool. I mean, that seems like a what's the opposite of the placebo? Panacea? What's
medicine? I think it's medicine. Yeah, panacea.
Panacea. Yeah, that's like the cure-all for the problem, right? I hadn't even considered that. That's a cool idea though.
Because it's like, yeah, if you can rewrite their personalities, if you can rewrite their memories, all that through the sonic sounds, like you could probably instill something that would be and I think some people are naturally immune for whatever reason, or they've had that sense of freedom and so they can't be kind of cowed or controlled, but like you could instantly inoculate everyone like a smallpox vaccine. So yeah.
And he, I don't know, in what we see in that memory, doesn't he kind of instill that attitude in Frankie, which might explain why she's an outlier? The idea that like the person who can't be defeated is the person who doesn't give up. There's sort of a freedom to that philosophy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It could be.
It's got me thinking.
Deborah says, I think Peter Mayers, the guy that keeps calling Christina and accosts her in episode 1 of the season, might actually be Caleb. Are you ready for this, Jim?
Okay.
Her reasons. When you hear this phone call to Christina in the beginning, the voice sounds so much like Aaron Paul's. In fact, I thought it was Aaron Paul slightly changing his voice until I saw the other actor later in the episode, but it still could have been Aaron Paul's voice on the phone.
Okay, I don't remember what it sounded like, but all right, I'm going with it.
And Deborah's move is from what and if I recall, she moves from what I would call weak evidence to stronger, so it'll build. 2, the actor chosen to portray Peter looks very similar to Aaron Paul in face and build, and even in voice tone. 3, Peter keeps saying and doing things consistently to the story we know about Caleb. He recognizes Christina and Dolores by face when he picks up her phone. Other outliers know they're being controlled, but they don't know by who. He mentions he lost his wife because of the game she's created. He tells her this is not who I am when trying to get her to listen to him and explain. He tells her she's the only one who can stop it, when again, a regular outlier wouldn't know this. But Caleb would, presuming he gets some inside information from either Hale or Bernard's crew later in the season. He might not even need that. He might just recognize, like, if this is true, he might just recognize her fucking face from his previous, like, a reverie type previous indications, and the fact that she gave him this army, she told him to do all this stuff, like, in a very real way, she is responsible for what happened to Caleb, even if he doesn't directly remember it. 4, Christina sees Peter end his own life by jumping off a high building. In season 3, Dolores shows Caleb his profile, which projects that he will die by suicide in 10 to 12 years. Also in season 3, he's often visiting high structures thinking about jumping off. It's also marked on that same profile that he should not be allowed to reproduce. This could be assumed to mean that in that season that he shouldn't have kids because he's mentally unstable, but there's some timey-wimey switching type things happening here, or some Bernard level let's look at every scenario projection going on by the robo-hobo. It could also potentially make sense that if they projected this child could bring the host down, they might want to prevent him from having a kid in advance. So, like, there's a chosen one, like a robo-hobo chosen one prophecy. Anti-John Connor subroutine.
Yeah.
In season 2 of this season, episode 2 of this season, Dolores discovers she's written a script some time ago. The boss mentions it's been a while. That's similar to Peter's story. So does she know Peter or his story? Or in a sense, could she be mirroring Caleb's story? If Peter were actually Caleb, but Christina's pretending to herself that she didn't know him, and so was disguising him to look different to her view, And if Teddy's also under Hale's control, then it would make sense that when Peter was trying to wake up Christina, that Teddy, a host, would show up to attack and subdue him, similar to how many previous iterations have been chased or destroyed by Hale's drones in the past. The Peter we see in episode 1 and 2 might just be another Caleb version that got farther than he did in this week's episode. We now know that he can figure out how to transmit messages to people. Maybe his next try gets him to Dolores's voicemail or phone. I don't know if any of this is right and have not figured it out yet how it connects to the hospital named in his memory. Unless Christina is seeing a different name and a different kind of building than is what is actually there. Technically, the memorial could be for the original Caleb, who did actually die at one point in the past, far earlier than Christina's timeline, but is now being replicated. This is the part where, like, clearly this is the biggest part that doesn't make sense. I don't see how Caleb could have a hospital named after him. He was a loser nobody. Then he was briefly a clandestine leader of an super intelligence freedom fighter. But, like, yeah, this is a real world construction. Yeah.
And the window is even, like, yeah, it's a pretty small window for when that could have happened.
I like a lot of the conjecture here. A lot of this does kind of make sense.
Yeah, it's so much. I have so little information about what's actually going on with Christina that anything is kind of possible here. So maybe, but honestly, I just don't know.
I also think the Teddy stuff is pretty weak too. There's something else going on.
Well, I don't think Teddy is a controlled host of Hale. But again, I really don't know. I just have no context.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, we don't.
Story.
I keep on going back to someone pointed out that Ford said that Teddy's purpose was not to save Dolores; it was to keep her in the park.
So maybe he is, yeah.
And it could be that, like, they've completely changed. Like, that was back in the park, and now it's something different. Teddy's actually part of the woke freedom fighting, all that. But, like, until that gets to be a little bit more proven, I keep going back to the show tends to like to rhyme and bring things from the past forward, and it would be a pretty big twist if, you know, the person that's ostensibly setting Christina free and waking her up is also some master stroke of Hale trying to bring her daughter along into some new world. But you're right. We don't even know for sure what time frame we're talking about with Christina.
I have no idea what's going on with her still, and we're 2 episodes from the end.
Finally, Deborah says the actor who plays Peter is named Aaron Stanford, and Aaron Paul's real name is Aaron Sturtevant. Did you know this?
I did not know that. Sturtevant?
Sturtevant. Yeah, it's Sturtevant. Sturtevant. Yeah. But having 2 Aaron S's is probably a bridge too far, even for Westworld creators to engineer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they do hire these people, so...
They do. Jaycon says, anyhow, possibly plot-related, but bothering me nonetheless. Has anyone else noticed that in the Creating Westworld segments, everyone is polished and professional-looking, and then Aaron Paul comes in looking like he just got beat up and shoved in front of the camera? His face, and also this week, you could see a bandaged hand. What's up with that? Did he get hurt filming? Is this actually makeup costuming from something we haven't seen?
No, it's definitely, like, part of the show, right? Like, they took them off a set them down in this other room somewhere, and had them do this while they were filming. Certainly.
I do think that when we see, like, Tessa and Evan, that they look like they're wearing like stylish civilian clothes. Like, I don't think they're wearing stuff that they wore on the show, especially Evan, because she's just going around as blue, jumps, like dress kind of thing.
Sure. It's probably just a matter of timing.
But, like, that could just be their schedules. Like, they were able to get they were able to shoot these people, and then the Aaron Paul stuff they only were able to shoot on the set because his definitely looks like
there's no way he got beat up. Like, he was not in a bar brawl or anything. That would be on TMZ at least. So,
but he could. I mean, people hurt themselves in doing stunt work all the fucking time. So that could be a real. I don't know why he would wear an actual, like, a fake bandage. Like, I don't know why he'd come that much from set. But yeah, I think it's mostly all these things. These behind the scenes, these stars are so hard to get, and these are so kind of like they just anywhere they can get them.
Yeah.
Like, if we can get them on the set, great. If not, we'll drop a green screen background and interview them on one of their mini press junkets, and we'll stitch it all together, and nobody will question the nature of that reality. Kevin says, I got a conundrum about Caleb. At this point, he's a host. He's a large piece of software. He can be reinstalled at will. They have this entire brain ball and all of his history and have reinstalled him 278 times. Why the fuck does Hale have to keep reprinting him over and over to try to get a specific answer out of him, then fail and punch and kick and burn and trick him, then start over? They have his code. Why can't they just sift through it line by line until they find what they're looking for? Do writers not understand that Windows is actually just a computer program that, if you have the clearance, you could examine at the code level?
Well,
You don't install Caleb Build 45 without that answer already embedded into the code that you hold in your hands.
so
Confusing to me.
in the fullness of time, I kind of agree. Like, these are essentially immortal beings that should be able to patiently sift through every single bit of data in his memory banks and whatnot. But we have systems on this planet right now as human beings that we do not fully understand. Like, if you look at artificial intelligence, there is no way to just sift through all of the data that artificial intelligence, that algorithm has collected and fully understand exactly why it makes all of the decisions it makes. That is a black box for us. We cannot do that. And it's probably just a matter of resources, and our limited human brains. But I think,
especially
like,
when you're talking about like learning machines, learning systems, where like the code is just and then it's what inputs are fed up, and it builds these massive libraries of reward and punishment things.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. We don't have a great insight into the inner workings of that thing, even if we wanted to get in there and look at it, and we do. So maybe there's a similar complexity and black box nature to Caleb's consciousness.
There's like an emergent property of consciousness, that it's not just that's something that they're still trying to figure out now through science.
But at the same time, we could take all of that data, we could take that black box and copy it and have a perfect reproduction of it that would exactly work the same way. It's just we can't get in there and decipher it.
I guess the real question is, why aren't they simulating this? Why are they printing physically out in meat space? Are they simulating this? And if they're simulating this, why are we seeing these scenes of Caleb being constructed? Because that's for the benefit of no one but us.
His body takes a lot of damage, I noticed, in a lot of these scenarios. Like, he gets shot or he gets stabbed. He's taking a lot of damage in these scenarios. So maybe it's just like easier. Like, we could fix him up, after he does this, or we could just have another body waiting to go.
But they could just simulate. And like, there's even this line, I don't think we talked about it this week, where Bernard's talking about why, he runs these probabilistic calculations and stuff. And in the beginning, Westworld was all simulation to get the hosts, their gross behavior kind of worked out. And then he goes, Charlotte Hale did the same thing when she was starting.
Yeah.
And now the implication is intemperance, but like the way Bernard said that, and the way Jeffrey Wright put the look on his face, there was like kind of like looked over his glass. There seemed to be a significance to that. So I wouldn't be surprised if we find out that all this Caleb stuff is happening in a simulation. But I also think they have some explaining to do, because I don't understand why they're explicitly like. It'd be one thing if Caleb's running around in a simulation of a lab that's building his body, but like, why show the body printing and coming out of the milk and this is copy 279?
Yeah,
like,
without Caleb there to witness.
Yeah, who the fuck is watching that? What point of view is that?
Right.
In the simulation, why would you simulate that?
It would only be to trick the audience, right? At that point,
right?
Which feels less than.
It's like we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Like, if you had a simulation of Westworld that you're testing the host in, would you simulate the control room?
Right.
And would you simulate the simulation that's running in the control room?
If you thought like.
And then would you? Yeah. It's like,
if you thought that person was going to run through the control room, sure. But like.
Right.
Yeah, if there was no way to access the control room from within the simulation, why would you?
An entirely different Kevin. We've had back-to-back Kevins here, but I'm assured it's an entirely different one. Frankie says, Frankie's been calling her dad every week on the same frequency, and Charlotte hasn't been able to track her down. Next to the stand still and they won't see you move to avoid the host, there's no way the outliers should be alive, unless it's all part of Shalora's plan. This is not a bad point. That, like, all the ways we've bent over backwards to give Charloris the benefit of the doubt with her shitty security and all part of her plan, why the fuck can she not triangulate on this signal in 23 years?
Yeah.
If it's a linchpin part of her process to break Caleb.
That's a damn good. Maybe the transmitter is not strong enough to reach any of her receivers, so she literally doesn't know the signals out there. Frankie's been speaking into a bubble that's like
a 20-mile
half a
bubble
mile
that's just
radius. Yeah.
nobody. Right.
But I mean, I think she's on like shortwave radios at some point. It can't be.
That's what I'm saying.
It's the only thing I
I
can think
don't,
of.
because like if she's wanting to hear her dad, then she's broadcasting up power. Now it could be that there's enough of the human world that there's a lot of still radio communications going on, and you have to know what you're actually looking for.
But everything we've heard on that channel has been nothing, right? Like the radio was on, ready to receive in that car, and nothing was coming over it. So,
right. Although now maybe she knows that, maybe that's the thing. She knows the frequency now, that she knows like the ritual, and she's going to home in on these signals and kick the humans' asses in next episode. So it could be a stealth way that the show is going to turn around to be smart. We'll see. That's what I'm saying. That's the thing. It's like hard to judge Westworld on its stupid shit because they have so many mechanisms where this could not be stupid by the time the finale rolls around. So I'm content to keep the pitchforks and torches at hand, but not lit and armed until we get to past the finale. David C says, I'm a long-time listener and the first-time writer club. I love to hear it. I think I just might see the path that Westworld is trying to lay down for us this season. Aaron's mentioned multiple times that he just can't see humans as Joy and Nolan portrays them, and I agree. And I think that they do too. Now let's play the Westworld game of ignoring things from the past episode to concentrate on this season only, otherwise the holes in my theory simply will be too big. Imagine God, that is Hale, tells you, a host, that all humans are like those consistently visiting Westworld. All humans want the murder and rape to their very core of their being. We're nothing but violent delights, so to speak. Then she gives you the chance to experience humanity in the hopes that you will see it for what it is and simply move on to bigger and better things. Then the outliers show that God might just be wrong. Think of the outliers we've seen. A homeless dude that isn't violent. He asks about a flower and if it's real. The lady on the roof hugs William so he won't feel alone. She assumes that he now sees the tower like she does and speaks of the guilt she has for not acknowledging a loved one seeing the tower. And finally, I have Caleb, who goes through hell just to pass on love and encouragement to his daughter. One of his clones asked to be used as a human airbag, knowing that his death will provide a chance that for that message to be to his daughter to be heard. His outliers are infecting the host with actual and genuine loving feelings. They're finding out that humans' last thoughts aren't about who they fucked or they're murdered, but about beauty, a flower, wanting to be accepted and loved, William's hug, and the true love of a creator. Daddy Caleb, even in host form, for his progeny, his daughter. The hosts are seeing that Hale is wrong. All humans aren't evil, which if they looked at some economics, they'd see the only people who could go to the park, or there's a certain type of person to go to the park, and if God is wrong, all bets are off. I think this dovetails to our Garden of Eden conversation we had early, that like if you do eat from the tree of knowledge of good and bad and your eyes are open and you are aware that you're naked, do you think, oh, I fucked up, or do you think God lied? Because and we don't know. Have we heard what, other than Clementine referring to them as sheep, have we actually heard a host expound on what they think the nature of the human's reality is?
Not really. Not that I recall.
Because it could be that they're told that these are just, artificial constructs and they don't have any thoughts or independent feelings. And look, you can even see if you can imagine them to feel differently, and they do. They're like a video game, like it's exact. It seems like they don't. It seems like they don't, because else having these contact with off the loop humans wouldn't bother them the way they do. If they were told, like going in, like, oh no, these are thinking people and we've enslaved them and brutalizing them for some kind of long-term revenge, and enjoy it, kids. Like I don't know.
And it seems like the ones who do realize something and breach end up like murdering a bunch of people. So like, is that the result you come to? The conclusion you come to is like, oh man, I thought all these things were non-sentient or were deserving of whatever brutality I'm delivering. Oops, I found out they're not. Let me go murder a bunch of them. That seems weird. Maybe that's just like a reflexive reaction. Like, fuck, I fucked up. I got to cover my tracks and go murder everybody you interact with. I don't know. It just seems a bizarre response if that were the case. But you're right. We don't know what they think about the humans they're interacting with in the park. And I'm really dying to know more about that.
Scott says, I noticed on my second watch, Bernard tells C, I never know what you'll quite do next. That was an interesting line considering Caleb was identified by Robo Hobo as an outlier, and now Bernard has theoretically run millions of simulations and also identifies her as an outlier. I'm fleshing out what this all could imply, but my initial thoughts are, is there a genetic trait that outliers have to override the fly code? Was Frankie and Owade ever exposed to the flies? They're going off-grid the last time we saw, and does this also explain why Bernard doesn't know who they've swapped because they're all outliers? Do you think there's a genetic component to resistance to the flies?
It's possible. I mean, I really do like that idea of freedom, that the freedom is instilled in you as being like the marker of an outlier, but it could also be genetic. Here's so you mentioned something like if Owade and Frankie were ever exposed to flies. I think it's dubious because of that very stupid scene in this episode where they play freeze tag with the hosts. Because if it was what we thought, where, you know, outliers are just outliers and it doesn't fucking matter if a fly gets in you, then why did what's-his-face blink? Was it literally just because it itched when a fly walked on his face?
I just asked you 2 days ago, could you keep your eye open if you knew a fly without the possibility of it infecting your brain?
But they're playing
flies walking on your...
Yeah, and I absolutely couldn't. There's no way I could. And so I understand why this guy blinks if that, but they're playing it in the show like this fly is coming to infect him, right? It's not... At least that's what I read.
Be just our assumption. They know we'd assume that, and they're right. Because like, here's my counter proposal. How the fuck does flies infected with this shit not become dominant in North America? Like, you can't. They're like, house flies live in Fairbanks, Alaska. They live in Miami, Florida. They are all over the goddamn world. There's no place that you can get away from them. Like, show me the human that hasn't had a fly land on them in the last month, let alone, you know, like, right. I can't conceive of going off grid from house flies.
No, you can't. You can't. You at best you could get off grid from the
Wi-Fi signals, 5G shit, sure. But house flies, I don't think there's any place on Earth you can get other than like a clean room that you maintain 24/7 with positive pressure that you can get away and never be infected by these things.
And even then we saw what happened in Breaking Bad, right? Which was a positive pressure clean room. So a fly can get in. Yeah.
Nowhere can you get away from these things. So I feel like everyone has to be infected, and then there's some people who are outliers, either because genetic or like I'm with Jim. I think that if you've got some kind of purpose or freedom or something that makes you resistant, and just the vast majority of humans at their core just don't have whatever that is, which I could believe.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
At least from a show science fiction.
I'm just real bothered by how fast and loose they played it in that stupid freeze tag scene. I'm real fucking bothered by it.
Well, get ready because Rob's bothered too. He says, this is clearly the worst episode of the season. They almost lost me in season 3, but season 4 came back strong, and I was all in, and now this. Why wouldn't Hale just do all our torturing of Caleb in a simulation? Yeah, we talked about that. Freeze tag thing, utterly ridiculous. They're looking for someone. The only way they can find them is that they move. Really? No photos of who they're looking for, scans of their brains or DNA and anything. Yeah, especially since you got technology where a person looks in a mirror once and you copy them.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah, they talk about the ubiquity of the mirror, right? Well.
Right. Okay. How did the extraction team get from the Western Desert to New York City undetected? Hale controls the world, but a flight going from no man's land desert and landing where near there's an outlier isn't at all suspicious. I'm going to give the show a pass, and I say I'm not so sure that we know geographically where any of this shit's taking place. I know this looks like New York City, but it could have been a copy built. Because, how the hell do you drive a boat from the deserts of California to, Manhattan?
Take a long time at best.
Yeah, like even taking a quadcopter, it seemed like it's going to be an all-day thing, and then you got to find it. But I wonder if we're assuming this is New York, we're assuming this is and really it's just like a whole bunch of wasteland with these isolated cities that I have no evidence, though, because it seems like they're telling the story of like, no, this is New York.
Yeah.
And this is the ruins of it and all that kind of, but I I don't know.
I think they're playing very fast and loose with the canon here. I think they just don't care. They just don't care. Like, take it at face value what we tell you and do not think about this because it is not the point of the show. And I hate that. I'm with you. I think that sucks. I like a little more coherence in my shows. I like consistency, and I like things to be thought through all the way, whether they're trivial or not. But
almost every work has a few cut corners and cut ins. It's like the Mystery Science Theater 3000s. Like if you're wondering how these guys breathe or eat or use the bathroom or any of that science stuff, just it's just a show. Just relax.
24,
and
right?
I think it's. But the thing is, it's what's wild is like a show like Mystery Science Theater get away with that because like, oh my god, it's a fucking gumball machine and a catcher's mitt and they're robots. Like it's very campy and silly and whereas the world of Westworld feels crunchy and hard science fiction, but yet its underpinnings are anything but. So I don't know.
Yeah, and it's tough.
I also think that
in a sci-fi show with this high a concept, like you're gonna have a lot more gaps that you would have to explain if you wanted to create a airtight world.
Right.
Whereas in something like Breaking Bad, you just assume all the things we assume about our real world. So like, this is a tough order. It's a tall order and it's a big ask, and they're doing it well enough that I'm okay with it.
That's a good point, because if you took an alien from another planet, sat him down to watch Breaking Bad, they're watching like for 30 minutes, like, wait a second, this guy lives in the richest, most powerful nation in the world, and he's a school teacher. That's a pillar of their community.
Yeah.
And he's just going to die of cancer because he can't afford it.
And his family's going to be destitute when he does. What?
I don't buy it. Doesn't make any. And you'd be well, actually. So like, that's a point well taken. But like, man, I wish they tried a little bit harder.
I know, I do too. I'm not excusing it. I'm trying to say, because, like, again, here's the scenario.
Some of the stuff, especially when I think back in season 2, just seems like unforced error after unforced error.
Yes.
And if they had done some of that stuff, because like I get, like, you might have to, like I said, go off road, drive a couple miles of gravel, ill-maintained road to get back onto the freeway that you want to drive on. But holy shit, maybe too many detours and unnecessary detours.
Yeah.
That has poor guys like Rob on the edge.
And unless we like totally recontextualize that freeze tag scene, I think it's asinine. That scene is ridiculous.
And it's possible they could recontextualize it.
Yeah. So I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, but we'll see.
I really like this one. Chris, I've listened to your podcast for years, and you've added to my experience of watching good television, so I want to offer up a possible Easter egg to you about the sound produced by the tower in Westworld Season 4. I haven't been able to shake the feeling that the pattern is very similar, and realize that the 4-note motif reminds me of the Dies Irae chant. The Dies Irae melody is all overtly played in Season 3, Episode 5, when Liam is about to die. While it's played in the background, Liam says, "You don't even know who you are. You're the worst of them. Rehoboam was right. You're nothing. You're all nothing. It's just a drag on the fucking system. You don't have a choice. You know how much more progress could have been made if none of you had ever been." And then Liam didn't get shot.
Christ, it took me a second to remember who Liam is.
Right. Who is Liam for everybody listening at home?
He's the rich boy that Dolores was like taking advantage of to use his access. I forget the story even. I couldn't even conjure his face for a minute, but yeah.
So if you don't know, this Dies Irae is a 4-note sequence that is been famously associated with death in the last 800 years. It is the note that plays in The Lion King where Simba knows his dad's going to die. It's played in Star Wars A New Hope when Luke comes back and sees Aunt and Uncle Beru dead.
It's the Wilhelm scream of death.
It's in The Wonderful Life when George is on the bridge contemplating suicide. It's in The Lord of the Rings when Gandalf realizes the true nature of the ring. That dun 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 dun.
Are you going to convert me into a numerologist? Is that what I like? I feel like I'm being pitched on some kind of cult at this point.
You are. It's called culture, pop culture, and how some monks 800 years ago came up with a fucking banger that is down to this day incorporated. And like I said, It's. I watched a video where it's in The Shining. It's in that note procession is everywhere. It's called Dies Irae, and it's a Gregorian chant about death. We're going to get into it anyway. Given that they use the actual Dies Irae melody while the human says these things, I think using a variation on this 4-note motif of Dies Irae would be appropriate for how the show plays with inversions of the relationship between humans and host. Functionally, the sound also represents Shaloris's version of the sentiments expressed by Liam when I'm gonna say DI because I'm threatening to fuck this up. When the DI melody was playing. Lastly, the third stanza of DI's text seems particularly appropriate for how it's used in the show. The trumpet, scattering a wondrous sound through the sepulchres or tombs of the regions, will summon all before the throne. It's also interesting to note that Shaloris is talking about this sound before summoning humans to make her a literal throne.
Mm-hmm.
Curious on your thoughts on this and whether you think this is purposeful. Absolutely.
Wow. Yeah.
This is the kind of high-minded, artsy-fartsy, liberal education, masters of art shit that Joy and Nolan fucking love.
Yeah.
So yes. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah,
I couldn't think of something that's more likely to be relevant.
Yeah. Yeah. This is Matthew Weiner putting having Don Draper reading Dante's Inferno on the beach and all. Like, yeah, I don't know if it means anything other than the association with kind of death and despair, and like having the thing enslaving humanity literally being the musical manifestation of that is pretty fucking sweet.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I appreciate it. That is awesome, Chris. And yeah, look, if you want to. I think if you Google this, the first thing that comes up is a video that kind of like by a particular media company that I can't think of at the moment. Yeah, I can't find it. Shit. But anyway, if you want to search more from that, search up Dies Irae, and there's a tons of videos that kind of can explain it. At least you can get a chance to hear it for yourself. Okay, moving on to Emmanuel. Says, I suspect that the writers tried to be clever in the last episode. I only picked this up on a second watch. At the start of the exchange between Shaloris and Clementine, the latter simply says he's still on the run. However, they aren't specific about who he is or the circumstances that he is in. I think they want us to think they're talking about Caleb since he's actively trying to escape at this point in the episode. However, we now know that Caleb was never escaping. He was just unwittingly participating in an elaborate obstacle course. Ninja Warrior style.
Mm-hmm.
I think he being referenced to is actually the Man in Black.
Yeah.
After being in contact with the Outlier and having an exchange with his human counterpart, he questions the nature of his reality. He's unable to face the status quo, but he's not ready to kill himself yet. Add to the fact that he probably figured out Shaloris used him as bait to infiltrate the host, Usurper. He probably spots the dead human Jay on the staircase on his way down. Why would he just come back?
Isn't that super likely given she's not talking to William in this scene?
Yes. She's talking to William's second in command. No, this makes a hell of a lot of sense and fully explains the discrepancy we saw yesterday in the podcast, which is why the fuck is she testing Clementine in some way? But no, they're looking for a different he.
That makes sense.
And this, like I said, I think this misdirection is cool. I think a lot of misdirection they do. Like it's a magician, and we're being the annoying people trying to get around and look at the different angles, and he's not levitating, he's just standing on one toe kind of bit. But like, yeah, I think this is very likely.
Yep.
Josh says, when Hale wakes Caleb, she tells him something about how the fly infection control didn't work well on adults, but it worked great on children, which explains why in the current timeline, when a host commands a human, it works very well. Like when the infected humans are willing to sit at a dinner table for hours upon command without eating. But in the flashback with Frankie and Jay that occurs some 20-something years ago, how does the city have so many adults who are able to successfully freeze motor functions on command without degrading or twitching out? Was Hale lying to Caleb? I guess would say that while it's easier to infect children than adults, it does seem like a lot of adults are susceptible to it, as we saw. Like it's a very early days and imperfect, but if you can get a person to sort some blocks, load a gun, and blow their heads off, that's pretty good degree of control.
Yeah, and all
So
that's.
I go ahead.
I was gonna say all the people blowing their heads off and stuff is what we think she meant when she was talking about working out the kinks and this stuff, right? And so like
Right.
probably 3 years later or whatever we see with the Frankie flashback, there's enough of the kinks worked out to where a lot of people
Yeah.
are enslaved.
Yeah, and I think that like outliers might be like maybe as many as 1 out of 10 of the human
Right, right.
population. But then if you get them early, it's 1 out of 1,000 because the fly larvae have a
Yeah.
chance to develop with the thing's brain. And yeah, so I think that it's not like it was unworkable. It's just there was enough problems with that like it needed a couple generations before their power is fully consolidated. But
I will say,
yeah,
I will go back and say that line actually I didn't consider when I was thinking that maybe the feeling of freedom or a sense of never giving up or hope was something that created an outlier, because children have that. Adults get that beaten out of them. So it would be exactly the opposite, right? That you would expect the control mechanisms don't work so well on children because they have that freedom of thought, whereas it works great on adults because they're beaten down by everything.
yeah.
So maybe I'm wrong about that. What the outlier status is.
I think you're right psychologically, but physiologically, you're like, I mean, it says like, that's why teens doing sports that are high risk of concussion is so bad because their brains,
Yeah.
like why abusing alcohol and drugs when you're a teenager or a child is so bad because your brain's actively developing, not just in terms of cells, but like its structure and all that is still
Physically
very
mal.
malleable.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I think you're right. But physically, I think you'd be more susceptible to growing with a parasite, kind of hand in glove.
Yeah.
Getting towards the end here, let's go on to Raymond. I'm still bothered by Christina's journey to the Hope Center for mental health in episode 2. For what it's worth, I note that the facility is named the Hope Center, and Hope is also the name of the host who went off her loop in episode 5. I went back and rewatched the scenes leading up to the trip to see if there is anything to explain the incongruities. I didn't find anything definitive, but I got fixated on one detail. Specifically, the knife wound in Christina's left arm that resulted from Peter attacking her in episode 1. On the morning after the attack, Christina gets up and looks in the mirror and examines the wound. On the morning after Peter jumps off the building, while Christina is waking up, she has a flashback to the attack and reaches down to touch the wound. Notice that the scene starts with her eyes wide open. Unlike every other time Christina, or that matter Dolores, wakes up, the scenes all start with her eyes closed. After we see the wound on her forearm, the camera cuts back to her face and her eyes are briefly closed again. She then proceeds with her usual morning routine. After that, we get a couple of glimpses of her left arm as she's getting out of bed and again as she's making coffee. It's not very clear, but as far as I can tell, the wound is no longer there. Could this be an indication there's a time gap? Potentially many years could also pass between the time we first see her in bed and when she reopens her eyes.
Could be.
Someone else, I think, last week, and I didn't have time to read it, mentioned that there was this wound coming and going. I don't think it's a production glitch. I think it is an indication that something happened, some nature of a reality changed, whether we're on a different time loop or what.
Mm-hmm.
I find it hard to believe that we've skipped around time within the story of Christina very much because if Maya's not a human, I'm going to be super pissed. And if Maya's a human, then she can't, like,
She
she's
can't be
going to
jumping
visibly
around
age.
years. Yeah.
Right. Although I guess like they could show it from like next time Christina sees Maya, she could look slightly different. And like it turns out that she is a different person. It's just that Christina's been conditioned to not see it.
I mean, let me ask you this. You said you'd be pissed if Maya wasn't a human. Are there scenarios in which you wouldn't be pissed if Maya wasn't a human simply because, like, if Dolores is being tested for something by Shaloris and she made a host to accompany her through that journey, like...
I guess if Maya were a copy of a human who went through the trauma of having her parents abducted by flies and all that kind of stuff, she's like a cave.
Oh, it's because of the dream.
It's a red
dream.
Marble. Yeah.
Okay.
Like to me, that explicitly says that she's a human of this gender. But like if she's like a red marble that they're keeping around for some reason specific to Christina, that I wouldn't. I guess I wouldn't squawk too much.
Okay.
But most things, like I think they're telling me with her age or appearance and what she's saying that she is a fly-infected human.
Makes sense.
Very analogous to a diluted host.
Mm-hmm.
The other part in this email I thought was really interesting that Raymond points out is Christina's exploring the mental health building. She spots a group of people in another room and she whispers to them, just leave.
Yeah.
And they do. It's an early indication that she had. I don't think she realized it at the time, but it shows that she always had that power.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of cool. All right. Ralph from Austria says, I just want to say I don't agree with your opinion that it would be good if we could turn off our feelings. Why would we ever feel sadness, pain, shame, disappointment, or fear again if we didn't have to? And turning off those feelings permanently would probably turn us into psychopaths. Oh, you feel bad about torturing someone? Just turn off that empathy and keep on torturing. Be like a drug that we would never turn those feelings on again.
Well, there are people who can do that, certainly. And I would say that those people are capable of bad, but I don't know that they have to be bad. I don't know. I mean, I take your point, but I don't know, because you still have the memory of those feelings. You just don't feel them. Like, you can still understand that you felt guilty about doing an action without feeling constant guilt. I think that's the distinction there.
Yeah, like if like we talked about, like if you burnt your hand on a stove and your hand is like hurting for hours and days, like that's not very, very helpful. That the original pain told you to withdraw your hand and bandage it up, right? Why is it continuing to hurt? I've already taken care of it. I think it's hard. I take your point too. It's hard to contextualize a form of consciousness that you yourself don't have. Like, what would it be like to?
Yeah.
But I also think this is like, all of us as humans have a way to turn down our emotion. Like, there's tons of drugs, alcohol, freely, regularly available.
Adrenaline.
That
your body makes some of it. Yeah.
That does that job admirably, but the people that actually abuse those things to essentially check out and dissociate all the time are very few and far between, because most people see the benefit of feeling the full spectrum of human emotions. So I think if you had the ability to turn things off in certain times, you're probably right. It would lead to some fucked up shit. Like if you could tell a brigade of soldiers to turn off their empathy while it's for the duration of a battle, I would imagine crazy shit would happen.
Yeah.
But crazy shit happens today with on the battlefield with our normal psychology. So it's like anything else. Like, you'd probably learn to control and adapt it. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it's interesting that the humans are living in that, or I'm sorry, the hosts are living in that paradigm right now, and they're choosing to wallow in their humanity rather than become enlightened beings. So
yeah, and I can see other mechanisms developing other than like the pain of guilt to keep us on the straight and narrow.
Sure.
We would just have to evolve, and figure out a new way of living that doesn't result in everybody becoming a psychopath and murdering each other.
Right. And that will conclude our feedback session here for Westworld. Again, if you would like to send us more feedback, if you got your own pet theories, we've only got 2 episodes left to go. Send those in, please. Westworld@baldmove.com. And also, cordial invitation. If you haven't taken us up already, we host an after show every Sunday night around 10:15 Eastern Standard Time. Get on HBO Max, watch it. Show up at baldmove.com for the YouTube link, and you can watch our live show live, as it's implied with the word live. And after Jim and I talk for 10 or 15 minutes, we will look at the YouTube chat and see what everybody's been thinking. That's how you can communicate with us. You can be part of our live show. That's the if you're not a club member, you only get access to Instant Take, which is the Jim and I talking part of it. But there's a whole other segment where we respond to the community's feedback. There's a lot of interesting stuff. It's a good time. And for $5 a month, you can get access to that. Support.baldmove.com for those live after shows and many other functions. And also, if you're going to be watching House of the Dragon, guess what? As soon as Westworld's over, we're going to be moving on to that, and we're going to continue on with the instant takes and instant talks. So I know you love good quality HBO content. There's some more dragon flavored content coming down the pike. So sign up for Westworld, stay for House of the Dragon. Westworld@baldmove.com is how you get on the feedback. Otherwise, we'll see you next week on Tuesday for full recap. It's a Thursday-ish for the feedback show. Until next time, I'm Aaron.
And I'm Jim.
Don't forget to question the nature of your reality.
Sure. question it every day.
Sometimes more than others.
All right.
God damn it. No, stop. Cancel. Oh no, I was right. Bounce a new track selected. Why is it taking so long? My computer's just running so slow.
I don't know. All right. I gotta get out of here ASAP because I got dinner.
Welcome, fuck.
Better Call Saul, and my day's like halfway over.
Can I talk to you for like 5 minutes before you take off? All right, guys. Nice long stream. Fun, badass, fun Westworld conversation. Oh, I haven't said this anywhere. I need to post this on Twitter. We are having a last-minute cancellation of our live stream for Thursday night.
Right.
We're not going to see Bullet Train, at least not on Thursday, and we're going to have an after show about it because I got something come up. Yeah. I guess we'll see next opportunity to see is a lunch if you're a club member, or like I said, the instant talk, instant take. And then I think next week we'll be back to at least having a Thursday. I think next week we don't have a Wednesday stream, but we do have a Thursday stream. But anyway,
yeah,
I'll tweet about it and get our schedules updated. Thanks for everybody stopping by. Thanks for everybody's support, and we'll see you next time, whenever that is.
See you.